Hey, Andrew.
Yes, Stephen?
You know how we romanticize the days of going out to our local video store and sifting through endless amounts of movies, searching for our favorite films, and maybe even finding some hidden gems?
Oh, yes, I know it all too well. That used to be my favorite thing to do. Unfortunately, everything is online now.
Well, what if I told you that there was a place online where you could get some of them same thrills as going to the video store?
Are you talking about Orbit DVD?
I knew you knew what I was talking about. Orbit DVD is located in Asheville, North Carolina, and online with OrbitDVD.com, they bring you everything your physical media heart desires.
Yeah, they have an awesome website that stays up to date with the latest releases from all of your favorite boutique labels as well as studio releases. Not only do they carry American labels such as Criterion Collection, Severin Films, Vinegar Syndrome, and Warner Archive, but they get routine shipments on imports from companies such as 88 Films, Arrow Video, Imprint, and so much more.
And with the option to sell or trade your used copies for cash or store credit, they really bring that video store vibe to you. So go to OrbitDVD.com and stock up on your Blu-rays.
And tell them Chasing Labels sent you.
Welcome to another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm your host, Stephen Billings, and with me, as always, is the, I would like to say Lex Luthor of the two, but maybe it's just because he has no hair.
Very true.
Andrew Cabral, how you doing?
Doing good. I don't know if that's a compliment or if that's an insult.
If I called you Lex Luthor, it means I'm calling you intelligent.
Because that's the whole that's the thing. He's a billionaire genius.
Yeah.
And in some iterations of the comic books, he's a hero, and then some he is
And a lot of them,
terrible
he's
bad
a villain. So
yeah. So it really all depends on how you want to take it. It also depends on which version in live action form you want him to be. Do you want to be?
I kind of picture you as the Lex. I don't remember the actor's name, but the one from Lois and Clark from the 90s.
Oh goodness,
I know that's
that.
an obscure Lex
That
Luthor.
is an obscure, not obscure reference, but I thought you were going to go more classical.
Were you going to say Michael Rosenbaum?
I was
going to
say Michael Rosenbaum. That's who was ruminating through my head.
Yeah.
As I'm rewatching the show and listening to their podcast.
Yeah, I really want to do that. I need to get my head around.
It's a fun experience.
Is it fun? Yeah.
Because you learn like behind the scenes stuff that you never like even thought of, like how certain things were shot, how how they interacted with different directors and writers and all that kind of stuff. But that's all part of TV talk, which is not a podcast we have.
Some of them guys played in movies. They played in movies.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah. But we are here once again for spine number, what are we on? Number 86 now?
Yep, that's it.
Yes, spine number 86. And we do have a guest this week, and we have a guest who is going the distance with us. So he will be here for the whole show. Stephen, who do we have?
Well, he's been a big supporter of ours since the beginning of this iteration of the show. We very much appreciate anybody that sticks around this long. And he's also been really gracious and helpful to us. He helped us get one of our recent guests, Sean Donnelly, the director of I Think I'm Alone Now. So that was a great episode, and that was awesome that he brought it to our attention. But he is an actor. He's a film enthusiast, and he is with us today, Mr. Johnny Pomatto. How you doing?
Great. Greetings, gentlemen. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure, man. It's our pleasure. Johnny, we, like I said, very much appreciate you, listening to us all the time and interacting with us. And, I can't wait to talk some of these movies with you, because I do follow you on Letterboxd as well, and because that's one thing I want to talk to you about. It's because some people like me, even me, I don't have time to write. I mean, I'd love to. I think for like maybe about 5 seconds, I got enthusiastic about maybe starting to write Letterboxd reviews, and I just never do it. But I see you writing them all the time, and you have a lot of good takes, and you're actually a tough sell. I'll tell you what, this guy right here is tough. He's a tough critic.
Oh,
You
only
know, there's some.
sometimes, maybe.
Well, sometimes I'm like, I really like a movie, and then I go see what Johnny's score is, and he's like 2 stars. I'm like, dang, you really, dang, I gotta read his review, man. Let's see what he's saying. But
Oh dear.
so how you doing? How's everything going in general?
Oh, everything's great, and yeah, I really appreciate your show. I think that you do a great service to the collector community, and in that you will so often watch these things that have just been announced when you could just easily wait for the new shiny disc to come out. But hey, so I think several times I have bought or not bought something based on your recommendation or
Well, thank you, man.
dismissal. So
Well,
yeah, I really appreciate it.
you know we don't ever advertise ourselves as people that you should listen to necessarily, but we're glad that we're glad that the work we put in, especially Andrew puts in a lot of the work with the watching, that it doesn't go to
Hmm.
waste, Andrew. So that's good to hear,
That's
right?
very true. That's very true. I'm glad the endless hours of watching less than stellar things does actually make a difference. Also,
Bad
it's like,
VHS rips on YouTube and whatnot when a nice
yeah,
shiny 4K is coming on the horizon.
and it's
Yeah.
and it's what's interesting is you learn that it may it may or may not increase your enjoyment of the film based on the quality in which you watch it. Because oftentimes those things can factor in. They can take you completely out of a movie or disinterest you very quickly, despite whatever the content may be. But it's just to give the show a little something extra, a little some more context for the people listening and for people who are potentially buying these movies. These things are not cheap. You know,
Yeah.
they especially in the boutique world, you do pay a premium price for a premium product. So it would be nice to know if it's worth it. You know, some people, have the financial means where it doesn't matter; they can just shell it out. But it's nice that people who are more cautious about it can maybe get a little more perspective onto these films.
Yeah, I mean it's it'd be nice if there was more. I know it's not possible because there's just too much competition, but if there was more streaming services tied to these physical media labels, that'd be kind of interesting. Like, like we have the Criterion channel. So a lot of times what they're putting out, they actually stream it. There's an opportunity there a lot of times. Or even like Arrow has a little bit of a streaming thing going on, I think, as well. And I think so does Shout. Doesn't Shout Factory have a small little?
Yes,
They do have a streaming
Yeah,
thing.
I don't
yeah.
know anyone who's ever used it,
I don't
and
either.
Kino as well, right? They've got their service.
Yeah, they got the Kino Colt. I think it's like
Yeah,
Kino Colt or
I thought
something
it
like.
was Kino Check or Kino.
I don't
No,
know.
I get the emails and I
Yeah,
don't read them, so
but
it's part of my 10,000 unread
yeah,
emails.
it'd be nice that there was kind of I mean, we do our best to always bring up if there's a place where we saw the movie, if we saw the movie, and even if they're in crappy condition. But if we could get the more restored version on a service and know where that's going to be and make it easier for people to kind of inform themselves before they make purchases, that would be nice. But I guess it's not in their interest, or maybe it's not even it might not even be possible for them, because it's maybe
Yeah,
already somewhere else in a crappier version.
yeah, or you never know how the rights shake up in terms of
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
streaming rights versus physical.
yeah,
I say one of the worst perpetrators I think of giving us kind of uh, you know derelict quality in a lot of films is Amazon. Actually,
Mm.
yeah. It's
Amazon
pretty
Prime
bad.
will have tons of stuff like back catalog older stuff, but it's public domain as public domain can be prints of these things, and it's like you can't really make heads or tails out of some of the stuff that's on the screen.
Yeah, it's a real
But I
double-edged
think,
sword too, because I mean, I
yeah,
think Amazon and Tubi is something I've kind of been delving into lately. It's like you will find something that has not existed since the days of VHS, and it's a fun way to watch something old that you had almost forgot about. But the quality is never ever good. So I don't know.
Yeah,
You take what you
yeah,
can get, I
and
guess.
yeah,
some stream in HD, some don't. Some say it's HD, but it's really 720p, which is technically HD, but not full HD. Splitting hairs here, really, for a lot of people. And yeah, so a lot of that is interesting. you kind of, I guess you get what you pay for. Tubi is technically free. You don't even need to have an account with Tubi.
I love Tubi.
The
Yeah,
the
yeah,
backdrop
I
is
love Tubi.
the commercials show up at the most random times
Yeah.
sometime, and sometimes they don't warn you, or there'll be like a little ad break counter that'll show up on the screen, and they'll show up in the middle of a scene, in the middle of an action scene. It'll happen,
Yeah,
and you're just left there like, oh,
son of a
it kills
bitch.
the momentum of the movie, but yet again, you're not paying anything for it technically. You know,
Just your time.
it just your time and effort, I guess. But I guess we could transition into Johnny, kind of your origin story, where the birth of the love of film came for you, and then everything that kind of extended
I
after
will.
that.
I will say every time we say your name, I want to. It makes me think of Cobra Kai right away. I'm just thinking of
Oh,
Cobra Kai.
okay.
I'm thinking you're gonna do a roundhouse kick to the camera, or something. I
My
just keep
wife's
thinking of.
favorite. Yeah.
Oh, she like.
Why?
Does she like Cobra Kai?
Yeah, she is a brown belt in karate herself. So
Oh,
Oh,
anything Cobra Kai, anything karate related, or generally martial arts these
yeah.
days. It's
She
really
a Van
every
Dam?
time.
expanded our watching lately.
Is she a Van Dam fan? She like
You
Van
know, I
Dam
don't
and
think she's done much Van Damme, and even I haven't much. So
yeah,
that's sort of a blind spot. Other than a few of the his big Hollywood ones like Sudden Impact, Sudden Death,
sudden
uh,
death. Yeah,
and then what's his Most Dangerous Game one, where he's being hunted in New Orleans.
Hard target.
hard target.
Hard
Yeah,
Target, that's the one. Yeah,
yeah.
Yes.
John
Time
Woo
Cop
film.
Wilford
and all
Brimley
that.
as a
Yeah,
Cajun
exactly. Yeah.
accented person, and he's making moonshine.
I would suggest, of course, Bloodsport is a good one, but Lionheart is another one that's a
Mm.
good one of his American films that are
When I think of the name Johnny, I think of The Outsiders.
Oh
I think
yes.
of there's a scene in The Outsiders near the end of the film with
yeah.
Matt Dillon in the hospital, and he goes, "We'll do for Johnny.
Do it
We'll
for
do for
Johnny.
Johnny,"
Yeah.
and he's talking about a rumble between gangs.
Yeah.
But
And he's talking
yeah,
about Ralph Macchio of Cobra
y-
Kai fame. Wow, I
yeah,
mean,
that
we've
It's all
connects.
connected
That
this
connected.
pretty.
connects.
Let's keep this podcast going, guys.
Yeah, 6 degrees of Ralph
Yeah,
Macchio.
Crossroads. Anybody? Let's talk about Crossroads. All right, so yeah, Johnny, please let's tell us where the beginnings. Where did the love? Where if you want to tell us where you grew up and all them things too, you can do that. But where did the love of movies
Yeah.
start for you?
Well, I grew up in Northern California and sort of a small town between Sacramento, Lake Tahoe area called Nevada City. And I do not, and I have a very strong memory, but I do not remember a time when movies were not an important part of my life, even if it was just those Disney clamshell boxes. But like, I remember, my mom bringing Back to the Future home fresh from the video store and such. And, I was way too young to even comprehend what was happening in it, but hey, it all made an impression. It all layered over my brain, and yeah, I love films from an early age. Weekly or bi-weekly trips to the video store and lots of rentals at a time. And I eventually I always wanted to sort of collect and such, and I'd like to have physical things even as a little kid, but it wasn't until like the advent of DVD when I really got into it. And with I mean, the big discovery for me was the Criterion Collection. And I think
Yeah.
I was at LaGuardia Airport back when they had a movie store there for some reason, and I saw that they had the then DVD only Brazil, the 3 disc,
Mm.
get you that big box of the Criterion, and it was like my whole eyes were opened to this new world where it had 3 cuts of the film. And I was like, what, there's other cuts, there's a happy ending version. This is bizarre. And we had never been a Laserdisc family, so it was when I discovered audio commentaries and deleted scenes, and I just thought like, oh, this is film school, like that you can have in your living room. You can understand why a director cut something, why, and have it preserved. And it really changed everything for me. And so I started collecting with Criterion Collection and really used that as like my film education. And it's why I discovered Bergman and Fellini and Kurosawa and so much more. And so I was off to the races with collecting Criterion, and then others snowballed over the years. Just when I think I'm out, they just pull me back in with some new label or something.
if it wasn't for me discovering, if I'd have probably stuck with correct, just because I'm the same way. Honestly, my story of collecting kind of, I mean, other than mainstream stuff, when I discovered Criterion, that became a thing for me, and then I suddenly started discovering the other labels like Arrow.
Yeah.
Was kind of the next big one, and if I would have just stayed with Criterion, I think I would probably have not. My room would be a lot less full right now. But then the
Mm,
other
yeah.
labels
Same.
they just suck you in, um, and it's now it's out of hand. So
Yeah, by
Yeah.
the time I'll
I
say
mean,
by the time I had gotten to other labels, I already had like hundreds of criterions,
yeah,
and then by the time I got to the other labels, it was like, oh wait, there's so much more. You know what I mean? Like there's so much more not here. I think a lot of people came to it through Criterion. For me, Criterion has always been. I know a lot of people criticize it and all those kind of things and whatnot. It's endless discussions we could have, but it's been the gateway for a lot of people into foreign cinema, into indie cinema, into all kind of different genres, all kind of different places because they've been around for so long. You know, they kind of had the market cornered, I think, on a lot of these things for a
oh
long
yeah.
time, and then I think in the last really decade or so, it's opened up so much. And it's not that the other labels didn't exist. Like Kino's been around for a long time.
yeah,
Arrow was
Blue
around for a long
Underground,
time.
Hmm.
and then
You know,
if you
Blue
talk about
Underground, but
Anchor Bay, Anchor Bay,
Anchor Bay, like there were other indie labels that were around. Just I don't think a lot of like the more collectors know about them now than I think ever before.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
they're also putting out a lot more than ever before
Yeah,
too.
yeah, that's the problem and the solution. I Criterion was my first love, and then I did have things like Scream Factory was like, oh, okay, I can have a little horror library, and then Kino Lorber, would always have those great sales where it's like, oh, I can get this film for $4 and such. But it
yeah,
wasn't until I now like 4 or 5 or 6 years ago, my Blu-ray player just died out from overuse, I imagine. And I thought, well, now is the time, I guess. I got to go all region. Let me get an all region player. It's like, if I'm getting a new one anyway, I may as well, right? And once I
exactly.
did, and I saw like, oh, well, let me check out what I could get from like Australia and the UK. And I would just discover like, oh, these films that I thought hadn't existed since VHS. No, they have these great copies just overseas, and that really was my downfall.
Yeah,
I now I am just all about imprint and indicator and all that. It's like when I discovered, I think the first one with imprint was like the Straight Story, where I was like, oh,
mm,
you can get this. I had it on DVD years ago, but it was just off to the races at that point.
yeah, yeah. It's as you called it, a double edged sword. I'm I once I got that thing, it really opened things up, and now I cannot be. I'm like I'm like a bottle you try to put a cap on, but the water just keeps flowing out of it. It's like it can't stop it. No, and it can't plug the
Yeah,
hole. Like it's
it's a Pandora's
yeah,
box.
yeah.
Once you open it, you can't really close it
No,
again. Um, and what is interesting is it seems like a lot of these labels have cropped up really recently. Um, like even something like Indicator, I think has only been around since like 2016, which granted now is like 6 to 7 years ago, but
6 years. Yeah,
by the time we started this podcast, it was only like 4 or 5 years in existence, really. Imprint has only been around,
three
I think,
years,
less time than
three
that.
years, something like that.
Yeah, they're one
They're
of
already
their
in the two
earliest.
hundreds.
Yeah, they put out. I mean, we're gonna talk. We talked about them last month, but they keep putting out 5 to 10 releases every month. They're gonna
Yeah,
Yeah,
those numbers are gonna go up.
it's
It's
hard to keep
and
inevitable.
up.
and they,
And then
yeah.
well,
Go
I
ahead.
live in
Go ahead.
a Manhattan apartment too, which so space is always a difficulty. And it
Yeah,
was a few years ago where I had to make the hard decision where it's like, okay, all of my like, just old, regular old releases. It's time. I hate to do it, but I have to put them in some wallets and such to make room for the stuff that I definitely want on display. And even then I'm kind of running out of room, and
yeah,
we're sort of always shifting furniture around. We have a project right now to move the bed in our bedroom from one side of the room to the other. It's just like, oh, and then we'll have this whole wall. That will be fantastic. And I did have like a big humbling moment recently where I had got a bunch of things from the Vinegar Syndrome sale, and I was shelving them last week, and I'm looking at it and thinking, oh no, it's just the beginning of the year, and I subscribe to Vinegar Syndrome, and it's like, oh gosh,
Oh
we have a
wow.
whole year of releases ahead, and I thought, oh god, maybe I need to slow down, maybe I need to slow down, and then you invited me on here, and it's like, oh, Stephen and Andrew will talk me out of that in a second. Oh, no problem. Okay.
Yeah,
We
no,
look, we're not,
doubt it
we don't
highly.
condone making people's life more
Easy.
hectic.
No,
If you
no.
need to cut back a few, you should, but never get rid
Yeah,
of it all.
I
I
should. I
mean,
Or maybe
should.
just double down. Maybe you should just double down and
I
buy
was just talking.
twice as
Yeah,
much as you would use about. I don't know. I mean,
ironically,
I'm the
ironically, I
devil
was
on
just
your
talking.
shoulder.
Yeah, I was just telling someone the other day. It's just like the irony of doing this podcast is you're always in the thick of it, so you're always kind. And if you always have that urge to to get more, to get the newest or whatever latest, you're in the thick of it, so you're always in the know of what's coming out. So you kind of can't calm yourself down when you're like when you're in it.
Yeah.
It's just it is kind of something like that. And then you try to like ignore it, but then you also you have the fear of missing out, the whole FOMO thing,
Yeah.
and so you just can't help but look every day. Like every day, first thing I check is to see if there's been any new announcements. I mean, granted, part of it's for the show, but most of it's my own curiosity. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, same. And then these things can snowball so fast. I know anytime there's like a Kino Lorber sale, like what I will do is go page by page, and I'll just add things to my cart, and
Yeah.
just by when I get to the end of page 30 or whatever it is, I say, okay, let me check my cart, see how much money it is, how many titles it is, and it's always way more than I expect, and then I have to make some tough decisions, or I don't, and I
It,
try to pare down as much
That's
as
exactly
possible.
how
yeah.
I shop.
Yeah.
That's what I do during the Criterion sale. Is I'll go to my local Barnes and Noble, go down the shelf, just start grabbing different titles, get a
Yeah.
stack, and then make executive decisions at the end. Um, uh,
Yeah, I don't do
that's the
that.
way I've been doing that for
I don't do
years.
that. It's that's too dangerous for me. I just go in with exactly the plan of what I'm going to buy and just buy them things. Because
Well, I
if I
always
start pulling
have.
things, then I'm not going to put them back down.
I
So
always have.
yeah,
I always go into the the Criterion sale always with like high priority
yeah,
things,
yeah.
like things that I know I wanted to get. I waited for the sale to get them. Then and those are things you kind of grab that you're going to get, but then you go along, you see like, oh, that's an option, that's an option, that's an option, and then you prioritize things toward the end. That's the way I do it, but I do exactly with that Kino thing. I go um page by page. Sometimes I'll do the whole thing, and then I'll do the whole thing again just in case I missed
I think I
anything.
might have missed something. Yeah.
Yeah, just add to the cart,
Yeah, the most recent
and then you
Criterion
go check.
sale. Yeah, I did. I'd saved all the new releases that I usually will wait for the sales, because the Barnes and Noble twice a year, and then like usually three flash sales throughout the year. So it's like, okay, on average, I'm waiting no more than 3 months. So I'll save all the new releases for when the sale happens. But even this last one, I delved pretty deep back, and I realized, like, oh, you know what? I never got Merry Christmas, Mr. Lawrence, which I think was one of their very first Blu-ray releases, I want to say. So it's like, even something like that, like, oh, I'm not safe and immune from digging deep and getting something old that I thought I didn't need, but apparently I did.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
it,
there's
yeah,
there's always catalog stuff
yeah. I mean,
that you
it's
never
almost a little
pick up.
dangerous to go too far back, because now they're re-releasing everything in 4K now. So it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
That's another thing.
yeah.
That's a
Hmm.
whole other thing. I did just hear through the grapevine. I forgot who's doing it. Someone's releasing some 4K Kurosawa,
Yeah, yeah.
In
and
Japan, yeah.
the
In Japan, yeah.
yeah, in Japan. And I mean, they've already released what the 4K of Ram Studio Canal already
Yeah.
released that. Lionsgate actually put it out here in the US as like I think it was an exclusive
It's a
Best Buy
steel book.
Steelbook at
Yeah,
one point.
yeah.
Um, and then now with people kind of just waiting to see what Criterion does when it comes to this. I think the idea is that they'll probably end up putting out
I
something in
don't think you're
4K.
gonna see a box set.
You think? Oh.
I don't,
I don't think you'll see a box set.
Yeah, I
You're not gonna
figured,
get.
because they
yeah,
have so much Kurosawa in their library, and although their box sets have slowed down, like their big boxes, when
I,
they were in
it,
such quick
yeah,
succession with Bergman, Fellini, Varda, I thought, oh, this is the new normal for Criterion. We're just gonna
yeah,
get a big box, like a few big boxes a year, and that slowed down. But Kurosawa does seem to be, I kind of hope they don't, but and even like for Christmas this year, I got my wife Kagamusha on
yeah,
Blu-ray that she wanted, and even as I bought it, I was like, I know what they're going to do. I know that this is going to be a
yeah.
4K before long, but okay, she wants it now.
Well, the only reason I say no box set is because if you're going to get 4Ks, it's unlikely that you're going to get a box full of tons of movies with all 4Ks. That's just so
Yeah,
expensive. I think
exactly.
The
Yeah,
that
expense would
economic
be
wise, it's better for them to sell them separately to get more money out of it.
well,
That
notice
way
what just happened. The Wong Kar-wai set they put out, and then they put out In the Mood for Love on
in
4K
4K by
separately.
itself. Yeah.
yeah, they'll do
Um,
So
selective,
there's
like,
already a
yeah,
precedent. There's already a precedent,
yeah.
and
I've been
maybe that's
pretty
more feasible for them.
Yeah, I've been pretty selective with my 4K upgrades overall, and especially with some of these labels. Like, when Criterion put out A Hard Day's Night in 4K, it's like, okay, I'm going to own two of these. It's just inevitable. I have to. But then there's others where it's like, oh, didn't I just buy the Virgin Suicides last year? I am no, they're not getting me. It's
yeah,
it's not
yeah.
happening. And then now the
Yeah, it's
same
happening.
thing is happening with Scream Factory, Shout Factory. Uh, I'm not falling for it. If they come out with something new in 4K that I don't
Yeah,
have, then maybe. But there's, with a few exceptions, a lot of those movies I do not need to look absolutely pristine.
yeah.
In fact, sometimes
Yeah,
they're
I gotta
better if
say,
they
I've got
don't.
a few.
yeah.
I've got a few right next to me. Like Double Indemnity
Oh,
was one that I think was a must rebuy.
absolutely.
Um, e- Even Raging Bull, I think
Yeah.
was a must
Yeah, yeah,
rebuy.
yeah.
But those were also
Because those
first
were
releases too. They weren't
Yeah, those
double
were
dips.
older Blu-rays. Those were older Blu-rays put out by other companies, really, so it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
not even like a re-release from them directly. It was a re-release from other companies.
Mhm.
I think one was Universal, and I think Raging Bull may have even been
MGM.
like MGM.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those early MGM Blu-rays weren't that great to begin with.
Mhm.
So those were like must, upgrades and whatnot, and um, even like The Last Waltz was another one where
Yeah.
it was a release from another company early, like over a decade ago. Um, so they are picking and choosing, but it's also I find it more fascinating to me about the ones they're not releasing and the ones that other companies are releasing of movies they had in their catalog. So it
Yeah.
also makes
You
me
know.
lead to believe like, what are they going to release? Like, is Seven Samurai going to get a 4K release from them, or is it going to get a 4K release from
Kino.
someone else, or
Kino.
Yeah.
both?
Yeah.
Like,
Because I mean, they already
you know,
did 12 Angry Men, which is a pretty early Criterion.
yeah, which was a staple Criterion
Yeah.
Blu-ray. Really, I think it's in most people's collections at this
Yeah.
point. Um,
But
so it
Incident
yeah.
really it's a different game.
Incidentally, it may amuse you to know that I live on Union Square in Manhattan, and I am actually 2 blocks south of the Criterion office. I have gone there a few times. Years ago, I had to, I had a defective disc, and they said, "Oh, just mail it in." I say, I actually I'm 2 blocks away. I could just bring it by. They said, "Oh yeah, come on by." I've never done a closet video or anything like that, but
Come on,
it
man.
does,
You can
like,
get it.
it is
Just
very
sneak in there.
sobering to just think that. Yeah, I know. I tried. I asked. But yeah, it is nice to know that they're so close if I should ever need them.
That's nice.
They are yeah, they are right there.
It's comforting.
It,
Comforting.
it is comforting. Also, their customer service is pretty good. They're
It
always
is,
willing
yeah.
to take in old discs that have become defective.
They
Which
did want you to like
I hate
smash
to
it
say it's
and
happening more and
take
more, right?
pictures.
Yeah,
Mm. Oh, you
yeah.
mean
So
the Citizen Kane thing where they
Yeah.
the
wanted you to
Kane one,
destroy the
yeah.
Yeah.
disc?
That was at
I
least
just
well,
bought
that
the
was a
second printing.
manufacturing error. I have discovered a few, with their gold rot thing, and they have their list on their website of like,
I
okay,
I
these are the
still have
ones
the
that,
list.
yeah.
I
But
still
every
have the
once in a
list, and I
while, I'll
still need to send them in.
yeah, same. I've sent some in, and then I've discovered others since. Like I watched I think last year it was Sweetie and Diabolique. Both had problems that they said, oh, those are not on the list, but they will be now. It's like, oh, okay. So
Hmm.
yeah, it is troubling. It's for such a prestigious
Yeah,
company
yeah,
with
I think
a high price tag, you hate when that happens. But they're good about
yeah, and I
making
mean,
good on it.
yeah, it's true. I mean, disc rot is a thing. Like, there's only a certain shelf life for any Blu-ray, but it didn't help that th these were all, like, all within the last decade these were made. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
it's supposed to last a little longer than 10 years,
yeah,
hopefully. But you can still, for those of you listening and have those discs in your collection, you could still find the list online and check your discs. What you'll notice, some of them are more egregious than others. Like there were some that were just the whole back of these discs were
Yeah.
brown,
Mhm.
just brown. Some of them there was just like the edges were browning, or the edges were starting to flake off and stuff like that. I gotta check because I've had a few discs, and unfortunately, I don't know how this is would work. You know, some of them do go out of print, and they do lose the licensing. So I don't know how you can be replaced something that's out of print from Criterion if you can't like get it from them directly.
I
You know,
think
I
I
guess.
have a couple discs on the list, like Howard's End, which is out of print with them, but
Mm,
they will replace the disc, I think. I don't think that's the case with everything that's out of print, but I think that that's one of them and, one or 2 more, but, I don't know if they just
right.
send you the old, like, the Cohen Media disc or whatever for Howard's End and just call it a day, but, it's, they seem to give you lots of options, which good for
Mm,
them.
very much so.
but
Uh,
let's get back to
yeah,
let's get back
get
to
back on track.
Johnny. So you
Okay.
say you're an actor as well. Tell us a little bit about how you got into acting.
Yeah, I've done a lot of acting over the years. I've slowed down considerably on that front. I mean, the global pandemic certainly slowed that down, but even before then, I was a lot less hungry to go out and audition like I once did, and I used to have a lot of local friends who were filmmakers or they would direct music videos and such, and they lived locally, so I would get a call every few weeks of like, hey, I'm doing a music video for something, you want a featured dance part in it or something like that, or a big moment. And so I got to do Sean Donnelly, who you had on. He put me in several videos for like Spinto Band uh, and Bo Burnham. I have a dance moment in one of his videos and stuff like that. And then
Nice.
John Watts, who directed the Spider-Man movies, I used to do
Yeah.
his stuff. And then they all moved to LA, so that plum little cherry dried up. And then yeah, the pandemic happened, and theater was not happening so much anymore. And although I did get some work doing like radio dramas over a theater company out in Santa Cruz that I was working with. I was doing some radio dramas during that, and that was fun. But now these days, if something rolls my way, like a voiceover gig or something, I'll happily take it. But I do sometimes introduce myself to some and you as a former actor, and maybe it's not entirely true, but I've lost a little of that enthusiasm that I once had.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gotta it's acting is I mean, I've never done real acting, but I can see that it would be something that um it's got to be exhausting. It's something where if you really take it seriously, you put a lot of mental energy into preparing for that thing. And of course, if even actors that are seasoned, it takes a lot of you know courage to especially if
Yeah,
you're doing stage work. You're getting up in front of people, you're doing it live. It's a whole other thing than and I mean, even doing it for film is you got people watching you have people are getting paid. You're getting a lot of pressure is put on you to do it the right way so that you're getting them what they want.
yeah.
So yeah,
And it's
it's yeah,
become like a full-time job even when you're out of work now, because with auditioning, and like everything is now self-tape and such, so
yeah,
you're constantly trying to find a friend to read opposite you or something, so you can put yourself on tape to send in. And I don't know, I'm call me old-fashioned. I just like going in, getting my sides, and
yeah.
walking out and hoping for the best. But
Yeah, it's a lot of energy, and it's a lot of I could see how over time it would get exhausting trying to like fight with the industry and how it perceives what's trendy and and
Right.
it's not always about talent. Sometimes it's about whatever variety of different things that they're looking for. It's not it's it's never been a kind industry to work in. So
yeah.
Now,
yeah.
was that always your career goal, or how did you get into? the whole acting thing? Did you go to school for it? Something like
Yeah,
that?
it was very much a big part of me when I was young, and yeah, I did all the school plays all throughout high school and such, and then yeah, when I went to school to college at the new school in New York, and I did a lot of theater here, and and yeah, so and then I had a bunch of theater companies around the country in California and such where I had good relationships with. So I was never too starved for work, and I had good connections, good friends, and people that I liked working with. And it wasn't until I suddenly had to work a lot harder to find these things where I started to think, am I still having fun doing this? And there were exceptions. Sometimes I was. Sometimes it was like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. I'll totally do this. And then there were others where I thought like, okay, maybe I'm not enjoying this as much as I used to. And I'm a little more selective now in what I do. I think I have something coming up in a just over a month, but I'm not seeking it out like I used to so much.
Yeah, I think sometimes you have to take a step back with something, and kind of um, look at it and see if it's see how it fits into your life, and if you can see yourself without it, then maybe it's not for you, but maybe it's just a matter of as they say, being away from something can make the heart long for it more, and so maybe a little bit of distance from that thing will bring you back to it more, so
Oh,
you not working
absolutely,
as
yeah.
much will make you have more enthusiasm for when you do have work, and that's
And having a good
yeah.
experience with something will reignite a flame within you and go, oh yeah, I forgot this could be fun. I still really enjoy this.
Yeah,
So
not just
it,
working to
it comes and
work.
goes.
Yeah, yeah, not
Yeah.
just working
Right.
to work, but working on things you really want to work on,
Hmm.
is
Yeah.
important. So, yeah, yeah. Andrew, I thought you were
I'm just trying to. So, did your early love of movies impact your wanting to be an actor?
I
Did you like watch movies and be like, "Hey, I want to do this"?
Yeah, I mean, I guess a little. I never strived all that much to do film acting. Yeah, a few little things would roll my way, like on camera stuff, but mostly I like doing live theater. I live in New York. There's great theater here. At least there used to be. I don't know so much now. Uh, and so I was mostly like stage minded, but yeah, I do think that my love of film, I'm such an old Hollywood guy, and like I just love that golden age stuff. And so you would see what you can't take it with you or something, Cappers, you can't take it with you, and then like when suddenly you get the chance to audition for it, it's like, oh gosh, I get to be grandpa or Mr. DePinna or something. It's like, oh gosh, you feel that connection a little. But yeah, I guess there's a bit of a disconnect between the two for me. Like it's certainly not the main reason, but I think that loving film led to my love of acting, but maybe not so much the sorts of roles I would you know go out for. I love I love a good classic musical, but I can't dance worth a damn. Let me tell you. Ooh, and people have tried to test that theory. I've I have gotten a few roles where I've had to dance, and I do my best.
yeah.
I've had a few dance rehearsals where I just go home at the end of it and start to cry and think, well, I'm never going to get this, and then I get it good enough in the end,
Yeah.
always, but sometimes just good enough.
No, that's good. But is there any particular roles, or certain plays that you've always wanted to maybe try or get a
Oh,
role for? That
gee, I let's see. There are a few that probably are still on my list. Well, well, one I did, like I said, old Hollywood, Lubitsch, and all. Over the pandemic, I got to do a radio drama, like well, it wasn't even Zoom. We were in a studio and against green screen, but of the shop around the corner, one of my all-time favorites,
oh,
and
nice.
I got to do a few roles in that, and that really was a bug biting moment where it's like, oh gosh, I forgot. I mean, I love this movie, I love these characters, and I ever since I've been thinking like, oh, I would really like to do this on stage, and I've been bugging my friend who put this production together. It's like, there is an adaptation, like a live stage one that we could do fully. But yeah, I'm not sure what's still like on my list of desirables. A few like weird things. I'm a big fan of this really rather obscure Kurt Vonnegut musical called God Bless You, Mr. Rosewater, that I've always wanted to do. And it was written by Alan Menken and Howard Ashman right before they did Little Shop of Horrors. So it was kind of their
Oh,
first
okay.
big collaborative show. And this is their like lesser culty one, but I've always been a fan of it. I thought, oh, one of these days I'd like to play that. Or like, I always wanted to do like Zootolus and Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. Step into Zero Mostel's shoes for that. But I've had a few near misses with that one and a few others. But yeah, you don't know what else I'm looking forward to. Whatever it is, I'd have to find a theater company who is willing to do these things, which is sometimes harder.
Yeah, I was gonna
Everyone
say,
just wants to do movie adaptations of like Mrs. Doubtfire the musical. It's like, oh, okay,
yeah,
Oh.
Spider-Man the musical.
yeah,
They
Yeah,
tried that already.
yeah,
Didn't go so well.
no.
did
I
not.
do
I was
notice.
there on first or second performance. I was there the night that the actress got the concussion or something and
Oh
had to
wow,
leave the
yeah.
show. So yeah, that was quite the experience.
I do notice that they do turn a lot of movies into stage or musical adaptations. And that has been a bit of a trend. I do
Yeah,
notice. I just now that you mention that, it does make a lot of sense.
it's happening
Uh,
more and more like in the Broadway world now, or with authors and producers who have Broadway aspirations, where they say, well, let's just take a movie that already has a following, a name recognition, like Groundhog Day or Tootsie or Beetlejuice, and right there we've sold half the tickets already because people love these things. But it usually doesn't work out that way, with a few exceptions.
yeah,
Like Mean
I
Girls was
was.
a huge hit. Uh,
Yeah,
was a modest hit, but then Tootsie, Mrs. Doubtfire, and now Some Like It Hot on Broadway. It's like three films with similar thematic material are all not really performing well, and you have to think at a certain point, is someone gonna figure out that this is not the way to do it? But I don't know, that's a whole other rant.
yeah. It's because I understand the whole marketing aspect behind it. Trying to get that cross pollination between movie fans and theater fans, but sometimes they're not the same. They're not one and the same.
Exactly,
That
yeah.
maybe they just think there's a lot more of that than there maybe actually is.
Hmm.
Because I noticed, I think they're doing like Pretty Woman on stage as well.
That has come and
Um,
gone. Yeah, it might be on tour now, but yeah, that was one that
yeah,
like, well, everyone loves Pretty Woman. It's like, well, everyone loves Julia Roberts and Richard Gere, and they're not going to be up there
Yeah.
singing and dancing.
yeah, that's the one thing as well. It's like those movies really is sold based off of, who's in it and nostalgia for it.
hmm
And we all know what nostalgia does for people. If you don't give them exactly what it was that was in the original iteration of it, um, they're not going to be interested in it. We
yeah,
see
and I
that
think that
in movies all the time.
And I
You
think
know?
sometimes it works the other way, where you try way too hard to be like one to one and like really hitting every beat from the movie, but what you're missing is that lead actor or something like that, where it's like, well, yes, this feels kind of like the thing I love, but it's not exactly. I think the more successful ones were the ones that would take sort of bigger swings and take departures. Like my the reason I'm able to speak to all of this is my wife works in musical theater licensing, so this is discussed throughout the apartment all the time. But yeah, recently we saw Beetlejuice on Broadway, which had its moments. It had some good qualities to it, but the best things about it were the deviations from the film, where it's like in the
Hmm.
movie, Michael Keaton's Beetlejuice is on screen for something absurd like 16 minutes. I think he's barely in the film. He just makes a strong impression. And in this, Beetlejuice really is the star. He's everywhere. How many times have I said it, by the way? Is he going to show up any minute? I don't know how that works exactly. Three
That
to
would
one.
be awesome.
I don't know. So yeah, it's a weird thing. It's very hard to hit that sweet spot of Groundhog Day was another one that I think was waffling in between being faithful to the movie and then taking some big swings in the other direction. And I don't think it quite hit the mark. But it's interesting. It's
It's
weird when these things, the snake starts eating its own tail and they go cyclical. I know that there's a Mean Girls the musical movie in the works right now, and
Oh
it's like, well,
Jesus.
yeah, I
mm,
know. It's like, come on, we already did this. You have a movie, you have a musical. Now we're gonna have that, both, I guess. But,
right.
yeah.
And sometimes when it comes to adaptations, some things just don't translate well into other mediums. I think we see that all the time
Yeah.
when whether it's, books to movies or comic books to movies, or whether it's TV to movies or movies to TV. Sometimes things don't translate well because you can't put one thing in one box into another box. Um, and that happens a lot, I guess, in entertainment where people are just trying things out to see what happens.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, I think when it comes to the movie adaptations into Broadway musicals, there are far more like financial disasters than there are hits. For every Mean Girls or Legally Blonde, there's like Big Fish or Rocky the musical. Yo
Oh
Adrian,
God.
but singing. Yeah, my wife and I saw that recently in Philadelphia because I thought, well, if Rocky the musical is going to be at all fun, then it will be fun in Philadelphia, right? That you got to go, and like the drunken audience are going to be like, so yeah, go Rocky, yeah,
Yeah.
knock him out. Unfortunately, we went to a blue hair matinee while the Eagles and and what's the baseball team? The Eagles and Philly, whatever.
Oh,
Uh,
Phillies. The Phillies. Yeah.
Phillies. Well, that should have been easy. Yeah, they were all playing at once, and so no one was there other than the old people who couldn't hear what Rocky was singing. So wasn't so
Yeah.
much fun.
Did the guy that played in Rocky try to sound like Sylvester Stallone? Was it like
Uh,
that?
he did not, which actually sort of worked against him. It's like, well, good for you for like not doing an imitation, making it your own. But when you don't have the sort of like iconic, that speech pattern and everything, it's like, well, now
Yeah.
you're just left with like, I don't know why this was so iconic. Without if you take the iconic things away from it, there was
But
like
it would have been pretty if we would have gotten a Stallone-esque type of vocal, like what was the film that he did where he did sing in the movie, where he was the country western.
Rhinestone, yeah,
God,
with
if we would have
Dolly
gotten a
Parton.
rhinestone vocal in a Rocky, that kind of
Oh man.
I'm in the
Uh
ring and I'm doing this and
that's another thing. It's
Paulie's over there in the
Mhm.
corner,
This
yeah,
already sounds
that's
better
another
than what it was. Yeah.
that's another thing that must be difficult is like having to create a musical with something that doesn't have music in it, like a
yeah.
Rocky.
I
Rocky has music, but people aren't
take it
singing.
back.
It's not.
Do do
Yeah,
do
they've
do. You
got
got the
it's
guys
got
in
a
the
great
corner doing that. Yeah,
soundtrack,
yeah.
Rocky the
but
musical did take a break from the original songs to sing "Eye of the Tiger" right smack in the middle of it because I guess
Jesus
the audience
Christ. And
demanded
then
it.
and it's not even so is the Rocky musical like amalgamation of all the Rocky movies or just the first Rocky movie?
No, it's just the first Rocky, which like I said to my wife
Which
Robin,
doesn't even have Eye of the Tiger in it, which is
doesn't
already
have Eye of the
messing up.
Tiger in it, but they threw it in anyway. But I said,
Yeah.
the only way that this would work is if it were a parody. If you just made fun of it,
Yeah.
mhm.
and like right in the middle of the a scene like Polly's robot wheels on stage, like, "Hey, Polly, I got
Oh,
you a robot." It's like, okay, now we're laughing at this thing, but
okay,
they
this is
played
great.
it so straight face, seriously that it's like this isn't fun. This is not hitting
Yeah.
the emotions that you get when you're watching the film.
Yeah, it's not like something like John Waters' Hairspray, which was
Yeah,
already a musical and then got turned into a Broadway musical, because like that's a lot closer one-to-one adaptation where you got something to work with there. But when you're taking like a dramatic, Oscar film and then translating that into a musical and having to create the songs or having to, like you just said, basically force songs into places where they probably shouldn't be,
yeah,
um, it just seems like a recipe for disaster in some cases.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, honestly, it sounds like a lot of fun as a writer, like to write it, but once it's up there, you're like,
Sounds like a heck of an exercise. Yeah,
I
once
it's
it's
an
up
did
there,
exercise
in
to try out.
yeah,
I
it
did
just
in
feels like,
college. I tried to write a musical based on City Slickers 2, The Legend of Curly's Gold, which I didn't get far into before abandoning that. But I thought, like, well, that this is I could do sort of a parody of musical adaptations with it. And I flipped a coin between that and Arthur 2 on the Rocks. I knew I wanted to do a sequel, but never followed through all the way.
yeah, it's definitely feels like a fun exercise just in writing it, but then performing it, it would just have to fall into parody for most of these.
Yeah.
And that Rocky one sounds great. I really wish I hope maybe they do a movie play version of that one so I can see how the play went down.
Whew, I wouldn't wish that on you, but hey,
Maybe it'll be on
if
the
you want to
maybe
get
it'll
your
be on the
monkey's
new
paw out.
maybe it'll be on the new 4K of the Rocky Four, which also has a
Maybe
great
so.
director's cut. If you ever saw it, it's terrible.
I was just gonna say the director's cut will be on that 4K set that's
I
coming
can't
out.
wait
That
to
was
watch it again.
confirmed.
It is one of the
Um,
worst director's
a-
cuts I've ever seen,
and they're gonna have the
um,
theatrical cut in there as well,
which is the only
like
thing
on
you
the
need to
same
watch.
disc,
But
too.
Yeah, Rocky
Um,
4 is where the franchise lost me in general, but I don't know which is worse, the prospect of the more serious-minded director's cut, which does take out the robot and such, or just the original that's such a cheese fest. Like, I guess you could maybe give yourself over to it, but yeah, I don't know.
I have fun with I growing up I watched that so many times, but
hmm. It was always on cable.
it was
Mhm.
Like it
my
was
my
always
dad. We
on.
watched it all the time, but it's
Yeah,
that director's cut is. I went and saw it in theaters, and at first
I still have to watch
I
it.
started out
So,
really pissed off watching it, like, and then suddenly I gave myself over to it and was just laughing at all the unnecessary edits and take like changes and things. I'm like, what the hell? He just did this just to put it out again. Like
Yeah.
these choices are terrible. Like,
okay.
yeah,
So I also heard that he's working on director's cuts
yep,
of Rocky Balboa
and Rocky
and
Five,
Rocky 5.
yeah, and Rocky Five.
I didn't want to say it because I didn't know if it was true, and also because I don't want to think about the movie Rocky 5. That is,
Come on, man.
but Rocky Balboa, I don't know why he would need a
Yeah,
director's cut of that movie since he directed that
That movie's
movie.
not good
and
either.
it was pretty good.
He also
Well,
directed
better
4.
than 4 and 5, I would say, Rocky Balboa. I
Yeah,
remember that one being okay. Uh, but,
but that
yeah.
already has the modern day. Like I can understand he wanted to go back to Rocky 4 to kind of make it more serious, to kind of fit with the rest of the franchise, fit with the Creed films a bit. But the thing is, Rocky Balboa already has that modern day seriousness where it fits with, you know, the newer
Yeah,
films or the Creed films and stuff. I don't know why we would need more,
I don't know what
in that
he's going to
movie.
change it.
Curious.
I don't know what he's going to change. I mean, maybe he's going to take all that stupid ESPN video
That
game
HBO,
bullshit out,
you know,
all that kind of like modern kind of.
Yes,
That was
these sort
one
of
of the main things about that one is
that's less of but that's like a whole. That's like the way they shot it though. I don't even know how they could change that
I
because
don't
it's
know
like
either.
that's like in
update the
camera.
CGI,
We
yeah.
shot this. Are they gonna CGI over all of that to take away
And
that
maybe they'll
aesthetic?
reshoot the workout scenes because they were terrible. I don't know.
I
It's
I
all
don't
terrible.
I don't know if they what are you gonna use a stand-in body
I
double
don't know.
for
But
Stallone?
the fifth movie was John G. Alverson came back.
Yes, he
Yeah.
did. The
I don't
original
That's
know what
director.
he's
right.
gonna do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't
If
know what he'll do
Sylvester
with
really
that.
wanted to change any of the Rocky movies, he should go back to the first Creed movie and have Rocky die. And if he had, he would have an Oscar right now, right? I mean,
Yeah, he would.
that
Yeah,
was
it
the
would have
real
been.
problem. He got
That would have
greedy.
been the exclamation point. That would have been the That's what get that's Oscar checklist 101,
Yeah.
a loved character passing away or a character that becomes beloved passing away, physical changes, all this kind of stuff.
He
Yeah,
almost
he
got
he
it.
had cancer, but it's like, oh, I got better. I feel great. I'm back for the
I
sequel.
fought the
It's like,
cancer and I
no,
got the kid.
yeah,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
can have the
he
sequel
would
or
have.
the Oscar. You can't have both, Sylvester.
Well, he wants it
Very
all,
true.
man. He wants it all. But now he's moved. He's moved on. I think finally,
Yeah,
maybe,
now he's doing the
kind
Tulsa
of,
King.
kind of. He's still crying about saying he didn't get enough money from Rocky. So,
That's a whole other
yeah. Let's
thing.
not
He
go down
doesn't.
that. Let's not go.
Yeah, I would say that's a whole other podcast. There's got to be a Rocky
We've already
podcast, I
done that
assume,
on
out there
Cinema
somewhere.
Discovery Project.
We did do that. That was a 4-hour show.
Yeah, it was
That
too
thing was
long.
long.
But all right. Well, Johnny, unless there's anything else you would like to promote about yourself, before we do move on to Blu-ray announcements, I do want to talk about your writing on. I would say Johnny is he's a hard sell. I think which is not a bad thing. I'm not giving him shit, but he has a lot of tough takes on films, and just
No,
talk
really.
about like
Was there one in
I think you
particular
do.
that really?
I think you're tough on some movies, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying like I'm not saying you're hard to please, but I think you're not easy to please.
That may be. I think I think with some of the newer stuff, I have largely
Yeah.
I don't go to the movies nearly as much as I used to, or at least newer things. Like if I go to the movies now, I'll go to Film Forum downtown, where I just they just did a Preston Sturges festival, and I saw
Yeah.
everything there. And it's like, oh, when am I going to get the chance to see Miracle at Morgan's Creek on the big screen again? Like, so
Yeah.
I really took advantage of that. And yeah, I appreciate you reading my letterbox. That was
Yeah.
another sort of pandemic project where I always kept like a film diary of like everything I watched, but that was a time when I had a lot of free time on my hands, and I thought, I'm going to start writing like full reviews for everything I see, and that way it offered me a chance to watch films with a slightly more, not even critical eye, but just I wouldn't have it as background noise. It would give me a chance to really think about things in ways that maybe before it would just be
No,
a
you were setting
casual
your
watch.
you having that goal to write reviews set yourself up to look at the movies in a different way because you had a goal to do afterwards, a
Yeah, and
goal
including
to
films that
write
I've
that. Yeah.
seen many, many times before. And I think, well, let me watch this now and write about it from the perspective of, oh, I grew up with this film, and what have I seen about it now that is different from what I saw about it then? And so
Yeah.
it's just a fun little exercise that I do for my own amusement. But I do really enjoy it now, and it's something that I keep going. And yeah, I appreciate you reading.
No, that you should. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
keep doing
I
it,
mean
man.
that
It's good. It's good stuff.
it keeps the mind, fresh, I guess. Keeps the mind active. You know
Hmm.
what I mean? Being able to think analytically, being able to think critically is not something that's required of us all the time. I guess it really all depends on how your life is. But sometimes you get out of practice. I think I've talked about this before when we had Celeste on. Sometimes
Yeah.
you get out of practice when thinking critically, thinking analytically, just because you're not required to do that so often. So getting back into it, yeah, you feel that shift intellectually and kind of, it's like dusting off the cobwebs, if you will. Um, but just looking at your letterbox, which I actually just started following now during the show because multitasking
Andrew's
is a
just
thing.
not good with social media. He
Oh,
doesn't.
that is not true. I'm on it. Ironically, I'm on it
He's.
all the
But
time.
I what I was trying to say was that you're not good at being social on social media.
There you go.
That's
I
what
was
I'm
just gonna
trying to
say I'm
say.
not active on there, but I'm
But you're on
active
there.
on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's always good to get different perspectives. I mean, there's certain films here that you like that I like, certain films here that the opposite of the case. So it really all depends on how you express yourself and how you're able to get your ideas over. Some people are better at that than others. I mean, we all know
He
online Discord isn't
I'm
always the
Yeah.
best when it comes to that.
I'm always gonna give an extra eye to somebody that is writing paragraphs of things.
Mm,
Johnny's writing some paragraphs, so he's putting some thought in there. He's not just writing a blurb of like a couple sentences. He's putting some time in there. So that's
I have to
what
really,
I
really
yeah
hate something to dismiss something in a sentence or two, which does
yeah
happen on
yeah
I
occasion. Yeah.
I'll say
yeah.
you did write an entire essay on Damien Chazelle's Babylon. Very in detailed, very
Yes.
detailed.
Well, that one too, I had a
That's a
lot of time to
divisive film.
yeah, oh, it was, and I had a lot of time to think about that because I'm friends with a film critic locally, and he took me to an early screening of that, maybe like 6 weeks before it came out, but it was embargoed. I couldn't write about it or talk about it, so I wrote a thing. I wrote a review, and I just kept adding to it over the weeks as I thought more and more about it. It's like I have so much to say about this, and when the embargo dropped, I had a pretty
Just
epic
let it all out.
yeah, which hey, I did not love that movie, but I do kind of love that there are people who love it. I think it's kind of cool that that movie did speak to a certain specific, maybe generational thing, maybe not even that, but it's certainly a conversation starter. That one, and especially for
That's the
someone
thing
like
about
me who loves old Hollywood and silent film, I was intrigued by it, but it didn't quite work
I,
for me.
I'm starting to think Chazelle is becoming more and more with his last couple films very divisive. Because at first I thought he was going to be like the new kind of director darling of Hollywood, where
Hmm.
his first couple films were like really popular, and then now his last couple have been very kind of up in the air. Some people like it, like hit, La La Land, of course, was a big deal, and of course Whiplash was like an indie hit, and then he did The First Man, which
Yeah.
kind
Hmm.
of, I think critics liked it, but it didn't come across to the wide audience very well.
Yeah, it
And
was an
then
okay, like, serviceable biopic, and
yeah,
then I think his problem with Babylon, for whether you love or hate the movie, is that it's kind of a genre that is dying out. This, like, this expensive adult drama.
Mm.
It's pretty rare that you get an R-rated movie, period, that is designed to be a hit.
yeah,
And yeah, you put it out at 3 hours long, and I just think that there's a lot of people who don't go to the movies anymore for something like that. So even with your big stars in it, I think it was bound to fail. And
Uh,
if the movie had been better, it would have been more tragic. But now it's like, oh, he made a movie that some people love, some people don't. That I think actually is contributing to killing an entire film genre. But I don't know. Maybe
an
yeah,
maybe they'll try
expensive
again.
film, an expensive film too.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's more the business aspect of movie going and all that kind of stuff. It was I think a lot of the rhetoric around it when it came out was just how bad it performed at the box office,
Yeah.
and like that was all the articles I kept seeing over and over again. Not really talking about the quality of the movie, just talking about its like lack of audience interest. And it's a niche film. It's a niche subject that it's going into, and it's like you just said, it's a nichely presented film. 3 hour long drama, satire, some
you,
comedy in there.
yeah.
It's about an era of the movie world that perhaps a lot of people aren't interested in, and if they are interested in, there isn't a large
It
audience for it.
yeah, it
I
kind
mean, I'm interested in it, but I'm one of millions out there.
you know,
you know,
the thing that you bring
there's a
up,
lot of things go into it.
yeah, the thing you bring up about it, kind of like in a sense, partially kind of like maybe almost killing a certain genre of film, kind of makes me think of Heaven's Gate.
Uh
Like
huh.
a
Yeah.
film that was super expensive in a film genre that was already kind of on its way out. Then this movie comes out, Heaven's Gate, super expensive, and in a western, and does terrible at the box office, and then kind of kills that genre for a while. Um,
Yeah, not only the genre, but like I forget if the quote is attributed to Coppola or Scorsese, but one of them I think said, like, Heaven's Gate was the moment where all of us, Golden Boy directors, Golden People
yeah,
directors, lost Final Cut because, or
yeah,
studios didn't trust them anymore with something
yeah,
that was so bloated and big. And I think now history has been kind to Heaven's Gate and people have reassessed it. And
yeah.
but yeah, you don't get a lot of those. And then yeah, something like Babylon Now, everyone was talking about the box office performance, but we're still creeping back from the pandemic. I think that's the
Well,
case with every
there's
movie that comes out, and only the big Avatar, Marvel type stuff is designed to be a massive hit, and everything else just
there's also other factors that weren't factors to a film like Heaven's Gate that can help a film like Babylon later, which, of course, streaming, home video releases
yeah.
can always help these films find a home a lot faster than a film like Heaven's Gate that needed years before it could get to anybody's eyes again. Not just
Yeah,
because studios wanted to hide that movie away from people because they didn't
yeah.
think it was good, but also there was no home video really yet that it was
Yeah.
really accessible yet. Something like Babylon, even if it didn't have an audience now, could have an audience 6 months from
Oh,
now.
I will think that
And
this film will end up being one of those films that it'll get rediscovered like every couple of years. I think.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think it'll
I
be
think
one of
that,
those
love it
where
or hate it, it's going to be one that people will have opinions on and they will keep seeing. And yeah,
yeah,
good for that. Like, I think it's a great thing that people actually care. It would be nice that this film that is so designed for the big screen, I mean, it literally ends with a montage about the power of the theatrical film experience. But, most people were just going to wait for it to pop up on whatever streaming service had it for free
yeah,
with a subscription. But,
yeah,
whatever. I guess as long as people see them.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously, in perfect world, we would all like to see certain films, if not all. I mean, I'd see any movie on the big screen if I could, but um, you know, yeah, a film like this, um, would have been perfect for me to see it in the big screen. Unfortunately, I have a 7 month old and I can't get out anywhere. I'm actually finally
Yeah.
going to go to the movies
track.
this tomorrow. I'm going to the movie theater tomorrow. I'm
Fantastic.
seeing,
Can
Welcome
you say what
back.
you're gonna say?
yeah, I'm going to see Knock on the Cabin, the new Shyamalan movie.
M
Um,
Night.
um,
I am curious what you think of it.
uh,
Um,
yeah, I don't know.
I can't remember. Are you a big M Night Shyamalan fan?
I like M Night. He's not,
Okay.
not because all his movies are good, but I think he's a filmmaker that at least takes big swings. I
Mm.
don't think. I don't think they're always great. I think a lot. I would say, I like Sixth Sense. I like Signs, Unbreakable. A lot of the early stuff. Most new stuff don't like as much. Um, Probably the best thing he did recently, I would say, maybe is Split. But other than that, they're all kind of okay, mediocre. Okay, I mean, like Visit's okay. Old was,
I will say this. I do appreciate filmmakers, despite criticism, despite whatever the case may be, make the films they want to make and make the films true to
yeah.
themselves.
And
You know, they do what they
A
want.
Shyamalan movie when you hear people start talking, because
Mm,
his dialogue is like very like specific.
specific.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
it's written by him when some child starts speaking shit. You don't know, like kids don't talk like that. Like it's just
His films have the vibe and aesthetic to them that's unique unto him. I mean, he's always been one who I think like every filmmaker takes a bit from influences
Hitchcock.
here and there,
He's a big
but
Hitchcock
he's been
guy. He's
able
a
to
big
at least make it his own for the most part.
And he's
Um,
very good at that. I mean,
yeah,
I love that he's out there. I run a little hot and cold on him myself, but that guy, he has had a few films that could have been career-ending disasters, and he always finds a way back from them. Like,
what
Lady in the Water and The
yeah.
Happening. These films that were just savaged by critics and the
The Last
culture.
Airbender. God,
Yeah,
it is.
exactly. Yeah,
mm,
that was his big like play for a big adaptation, like a big blockbuster thing.
a
And he
tentpole
always
movie,
comes
really.
back. Yeah, he
Well,
always finds a
I
way. Like I think he self financed a string of them, the Visit
well,
and maybe one or two others. So yeah,
I think when he started teaming up with Blumhouse, that was where his. I think the Visit might have been like a co-production or something, but I think he started teaming up with Blumhouse when he came back with the Visit, and and once he started going back to them low budget films where they were only costing maybe 5 million, um, and you know even when they're not great, they typically make good money. I think when he did Glass, that might have been the highest budget movie Blumhouse had done in a while. It was like more on the higher end. It was like maybe 12 million, 15 million. That's why Blumhouse does so well, because they keep
yeah,
all their budgets right around 10 million and lower, and
and
everything
don't
makes like
always
100
look like it.
million. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, I think that's where he's found his niche, is just kind of, I think he's doing a better job at not relying on the twist, which was, I think, a lot of what he did early on. And he branched out a little. He's done a little better at writing things that don't rely on that, but they're still
Yeah.
not all winners. But I think
No,
he's definitely able to still almost be kind of like he's like a Twilight Zone director. Jordan Peele is doing a better job at doing that. I think if M. Night would strive to be more like a Jordan Peele, where I think his scripts, Jordan Peele's ideas are a little bit more thoughtful, a lot more
his scripts are a bit better.
socially
Yeah.
conscious. Um, but I think as stylists, I think as directors, I think both of them are really good.
Yeah,
And
M.
M.
Night
Night's a really good visual director, I
I was
think.
just gonna say the same thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
Yeah.
his technical, ability as a director is really
yeah.
fantastic. Like, his ability to just, nuts and bolts,
When
the
to not
structure of
move the
film
camera, when
aesthetically,
to move the camera, where to place the
editing,
camera is
stuff
always
like
usually pretty
that,
good.
Yeah, I think
shot compositions, all that stuff is
yeah,
he's
the
really
big
good at
complaint
all
I
of that.
think people have had with M Night over the years, and it's not even a complaint so much, but I know I've said it's like, oh, I would really love it if he directed someone else's script, if it wasn't something he developed himself, because gosh, he sure does have the goods. Even some of his bad films, like films I don't love, like Lady in the Water or The Village, and honestly, I don't even hate those, but they look so good, and sometimes it's just the script where they fall apart. But
Yeah, what's funny is I know the new movie, which is kind of, I think, a mixed bag, I'm hearing, but it was, I think, initially written by other people, and then he came in and, of course, did his own spin on it
yeah.
afterwards.
Hmm.
So we got close, but it would be nice to see M. Night maybe try to take on somebody's script and not mess with it, and try to make it more M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah.
And yeah, it would be nice to see him do that one day, but maybe he's just, he's one of them directors that's, I would say, is an auteur, and just wants his vision to kind of fully be there, and part of that is the script. He has a certain style of pace and rhythm to his actors and how they speak dialogue and things, and I think that's I think he feels like that's integral to him as a in his films. So
And he's
uh,
unapologetic too. Like even when he does a movie that
Mhm.
yeah,
everyone criticizes the script, he doesn't let it affect him, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to give you
I,
another one next year."
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does. I do think he's a. I think he did. I'll never. We'll never know for sure. But I do think he kind of like backtracked on the happening. I think
Hmm.
I think he tried to make a good movie, and then after the fact, he said, "No, that was supposed to be like a B movie from the '50s." You know,
Ah,
like I'm like, dude, no, you just made a bad movie, and now you're saying it's
change
like
in the
you tried to
narrative.
do that on purpose. It was just
Just a
was
little
a bad
course
movie.
correction.
Yeah, you just unintentionally made a 1950s B movie. You know, but honestly, I go back to the happening. I think it's fun now. I kind of watch it like that now, in with that in mind. Even if it was unintentional, it's still it's not good, but it's still kind of fun to watch.
Yeah, I think
Um,
most his films are always at least interesting, even
it's at
if they
least
don't
watchable.
work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Even they're always watchable. When you can watch Mark Wahlberg talk to an indoor plant, that's the entertainment there.
I mean,
But
maybe the plant's more interesting between the two.
it's, I want to see an extended scene with that. But okay, so we're having a lot of nerdgasms here, talking
Sorry
about
about
random.
that. It tends to
No, it's
happen.
fine. I like it. I like it. We're having a lot of nice nerdgasms, but we should go over to the Blu-ray announcements,
Yeah,
uh,
speaking of which,
and get a little bit crazy on some of this stuff. So we got a little, kind of a sprinkling of different releases. Some bigger than others, but they're I think let's start and get some of the strays out of the way. How about we start with one release that we got here from Second Run, and is a film called Twilight from 1990. Don't ask me to pronounce its Hungarian name, but it's from the British label Second Run, and I actually got a chance to watch this one.
Oh,
It is getting a new 4K restoration from the National Film Institute in Hungary. And yeah, this is kind of like a murder mystery. It's honestly the best way I could describe it is it's kind of like an art house film noir, very slow and methodical, and it's about these young children that are getting murdered in this town, and a police detective coming in from out of town, coming in to kind of do his own investigation, and it's honestly it's I thought it was going to go. I thought it was going to be more. I did not know the film was going to be as kind of slow paced as it is, and I don't know honestly if I could say that I liked it a lot. I mean, I think I did, but because the version I watched was kind of poor in quality, I lost a lot there watching it. And Because this movie I think relies a lot on its atmosphere and its visuals that were just not fully there when I watched it. And so,
mm,
but it's so deliberately slowly paced. There's a lot of times where they just show shots of like the surrounding like mountains and like it's almost like it's kind of almost feeling like a documentary, like it's kind of in the moment, and it really just kind of slow paces around the room, or it stays on one shot really long, and it's in black and white. It's beautifully shot from what I can tell. At least composition wise, it looked great. But yeah, did anybody else get a chance to look into this or anything?
I haven't seen it, but I'm very curious about it because I know I wasn't aware of this film, but I read that it's the same. It shares the same source that served as inspiration for the Sean Penn Jack Nicholson film The Pledge, which was like
Mm,
a
yeah,
2001 release, which I hadn't seen since it came out, and I watched that maybe a year or so ago, and I was kind of blown away. It was just much better than I remembered it being, and it maybe doesn't fully stick the landing. It has some rough edges to it, but it is refreshing in a way that like that movie plays out in ways that a thriller now, a kidnapping murdered child thriller now would not play out that way, and
yeah.
it has some real gut wrenching moments in it, and it sounds like this is a sort of a slower, more methodical take on it all. But I am curious to see how the two differ and such.
Yeah, I didn't even know that pledge could. I think I still have. Well, I might have given it away because I just given. I did have that film, um, that Jack Nicholson film, The Pledge, on a Snapper case DVD.
Mm.
and I don't know if I gave it away or not. I can't remember, but hopefully it's got a Blu-ray out there. I might pick that back up again.
It's
Um,
one that I keep expecting to pop up in like the next neo noir imprint box. It just
yeah,
feels
yeah,
like
maybe,
they're kind of heading in that direction, maybe.
yeah, maybe
There,
that, yeah.
I'll say there is a Blu-ray release of that movie put out by Mill Creek in
Oh,
2020.
Wow, Mill Creek.
I actually have seen that film as well, directed by Sean Penn. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. But that's the only release that Second Run had put out there. But it's region free, and it's going to have also a new series, a series of new film appreciations by contemporary filmmakers on the influence and the importance of Twilight. So that there'll be a nice. That's the only new feature they got coming into that with booklet and everything. But moving on from there, where
I
should we
got
go
one.
next?
I got one here. Um, Studio Canal is putting out a movie called Saraband for Dead Lovers through their like vintage classics line. This movie came out in 1948, starring Stuart Granger. It's directed by Basil Dearden, and Basil Dearden is an English director. I believe he's a British director. And the reason why I know him is that we were talking about Criterion earlier. I think there's a Basil Dearden Eclipse box set that's been
Hmm.
around for years. Um, and yeah, he was like a stage director. And so this movie is
Dead
a
of
period
Night, one of
piece.
my favorites.
Yes. I haven't seen a lot of his work, because I've always wanted to get that set and I just never did. They've cooled down significantly on their Eclipse sets over the last several
Hmm.
I
years.
don't
They've
think they're
kind of,
doing them. I don't think they're
I
doing
think they
them anymore.
phased those out
Yeah.
really, which
Yeah.
is a shame because they did like, what did they do, like over 40 of them, maybe even more. And they always looked really nice on the shelf. I think they've kind of phased it out because they're more concentrated on getting out proper Blu-ray and now 4K releases of their movies. Unfortunately, I don't know what they're going to do with a lot of those movies in those sets because the only way you can get a lot of them is in those sets, and I just don't hope they don't like make them go out of print without telling people because that would be really annoying of them.
I was
But they've
looking like
upgraded. Yeah.
during the last Criterion sale, I was glancing through like Eclipse sets and was surprised that yeah, they all most at least seem to still be in print, which I found very refreshing and a great relief because there's probably still some that I would love to pick up. I kind of
Oh
fell
yeah,
off those.
there's definitely a lot of directors that they've actually released movies of properly. Some of their stuff is in Eclipse. It's like Aki Kaurismäki. A lot of his stuff that they've put out
Hmm.
is in a lot of his early stuff um, is in those sets. Yeah, it was called Basil Dearden's London Underground. It was Eclipse series number 25, and it had movies from looks like the 50s and 60s. All Night Long is one of them in
Mm.
there. I think a lot of them actually are streaming. Maybe all of them are streaming on the Criterion Channel. I think that's where they put a lot of those Eclipse movies up there. But anywho, this movie, also directed by Basil Dearden, is a period piece, 1948, based on a true story, but obviously certain liberties were taken. So this is based off of uh, British monarchy history, if you will, centered around King George the First. Now, people probably know from their history classes of King George the Third, who was the King of England during the American Revolution. Well, this is his ancestor beforehand. But the thing with him is that his wife, who is Sophie Sophie Dorothy, they had an arranged marriage. Like a lot of the monarchy stuff was arranged back then, and there's also arranged marriages to this day or whatever. But they had a kind of loveless marriage, and she ended up having an affair with a young Swedish count called Philip Christoph von Königsmark, played by Stuart Granger. And this movie kind of goes into their relationship and how things ended up going out. I won't spoil it. It is part of history. You can read the Wikipedia page, but it's kind of like a a melodramatic romance period piece set in the 1600s and whatnot. It's fine. I dug it. You kind of have to be in the mood or be a fan of that type of film. It's a short film, only clocks in about 95 minutes or so it wasn't too long. Stuart Granger, I think, is a great actor.
Yeah.
So I was really really awesome to see him. I mean, people Probably know him from a lot of the other work he did. Footsteps in the Fog, which
Mm.
has or had a Blu-ray release from Indicator, and I think
Mhm.
Kino as well. I feel like that was one that they shared. King Solomon's Mines, The Prisoner of Zenda. That was a couple
Scaramouche.
of other films that he did. Scaramouche, that's another one. Yeah, he was a great actor. I always got him confused with Farley Granger, who was
Yes.
in Hitchcock's Rope, because they have the same last name, and they kind of looked similar on screen a little bit. But Stuart Granger, a different actor. So that's that. That's coming out from Studio Canal in a Blu-ray release. It's getting brand new restoration. It's getting looks like one, two, three, four new special features. I mean, the last one's a stills gallery, but that's a thing. Still a
Still do
thing.
those.
Uh,
Cool.
Ooh,
yeah,
Neat.
great cover though. I love the cover.
Mm.
It's it looks like a painting and whatnot. It's really awesome. Yeah, it's part of their vintage classics line. So that's something that's coming out. I got to see that. Um, I guess we'll go into this, Steven. The Toxic Avenger collection in 4K. Uh,
it's fun.
as people may know, this is from Troma. Toxic Avenger is probably, I guess, their most well-known character that they've ever developed in movie and whatnot. At least that I would say. I don't know a lot about the history of Troma. I just know that I just know about the Toxic Avenger. Really,
You should
um,
know the name Lloyd Kaufman.
yeah,
That's
Yes.
Lloyd Kaufman.
Lloyd Kaufman, and there's a few. A lot of just like when we talk about um, like a Roger Corman, Lloyd Kaufman himself is kind of in. You could put him in that same conversation as a guy that kind of started something that also spawned other filmmakers and other gave opportunities to other people that launched their career. Of course, one of the
The
most popular ones,
aforementioned J.G.
James Gunn,
Albertson. Oh, okay. No
and
kidding.
that
Oh,
too,
yeah, yeah.
and J and John J.
I
Everson.
actually have. Oh, it's upstairs. I have a Lloyd Kaufman Troma book actually,
Oh
where
yeah,
it has. I think it has an intro by James Gunn, and it's all about kind of like the Troma way of movie making or something like
yeah.
that.
You know,
Yeah,
tr-
Troma's
tr-
been around for what, almost 40 years now. They
yeah.
still make
Yeah.
movies.
One
Hmm.
of the most popular Troma films is Tromeo and Juliet, which was the
Yeah.
James Gunn film.
That's a fun one. And
Yeah.
yeah, Lloyd Kaufman and Troma, he did have his roots in really good quality 70s cinema, or he was at least
Mhm.
adjacent for a lot of those. And then he went off uh, on his own path, for better or worse. But he's another one. He's a part of film history, and yeah, is still making them. I don't want to sideline us too much, but I did have an experience with Troma a few years ago where I got cast in their latest Lloyd Kaufman's latest film, which was titled Shakespeare's Shitstorm. Sort of, the way that Tromeo and Juliet was Romeo and Juliet, this was Troma's version of The Tempest. And it was a disaster that I could sense was about to happen, and I got out of that before I ever got onto set. I went to their studio in Queens, in the deepest corner of Queens, for a meeting that they had called me in for to discuss the scene that I would be in. And I got there and it was pure chaos. I said, well, there was no meeting for one. I got there and I said, isn't there supposed to be a meeting? They said, oh, I think the person who called that meeting quit today / got fired. It was unclear which. And they said, oh, but we feel bad that you came all the way out here. You want a tour of everything? It's like, well, yeah, sure, this is cool. I mean, I only took this gig, and like, well, I guess I owe it to teenage Johnny to if I could be in a Troma movie, that would be pretty cool to young little
Yeah.
Johnny. And then so they started touring me around and showing me all these props that would be used in the film. And they said, yeah, so here's the pipe that's going to burst out, and this is how, and you're going to get covered in liquid shit. You're just going to we can swear on this, right? There's nothing. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we're in it now. But yes, you're going to get sprayed with liquid fecal matter. And I'm like, okay, that interesting. That sounds like fun. And then at this meeting, I also say, well, what sort of wardrobe do you want me to wear? It's like, oh, it's easy. It's nothing you don't have hanging in your closet already. And then they eventually told me, so we need two identical suits. They have to look exactly the same. You need two of them because one of them is going to be covered in shit. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, well, I do not have two identical suits hanging in my closet, one of which I will never be able to wear again ever. And I won't bore you with all the details of the story,
No,
but
you're good.
No, that's good stuff.
I wasn't yawning because of
oh
you.
no, no, it's fine.
Steven's just tired. I mean,
I'm
Uh,
just tired.
he,
yeah,
I have
well,
long
and then
days.
yeah,
but
so
that
they
sounds
yeah,
like a heck of a production.
it was something, and it was one of those where I said, like, the whole time throughout the whole process, I kept asking, like, so what is the pay on this? And they, oh, we'll talk about that later. We'll talk about that later.
Oh man.
And
There was
little
no
by
pay.
little, I realized, oh, the pay is the privilege of being able to tell people you were in a trauma movie, which I would have probably
Yeah.
done as a teenager, not so much as a 36-year-old
Well,
person.
also if you're being more upfront about it, you're more likely to want to do it. Like if you're
Yeah.
just they're like, look, we this is a small production. Unfortunately we're not able to pay everybody. So if it's something you want to do, fine. If not, we can look for somebody else. But yeah, I mean, nobody wants to
Which
be dicked around.
Yeah, which again,
Yeah, I
I
mean,
might have done for a day just for the story, because I've certainly
yeah,
gotten
yeah.
some mileage out of the story. But then I asked, like, so what is the schedule exactly? They said, well, it's 9 days, 14 hours a day, really far into Queens. And, like I said, you're going to be drenched with it was like a
Shit.
shipwreck scene where, yes, you're all the they enter a hurricane. I did see this movie, I should remember this. They enter a hurricane that has been swept up with whale fecal matter, and it blasts the boat with it. And I just, red flag after red flag after red flag, and I finally thought, like, I should not be doing this. And then when production started, I started to feel a little like, oh no, am I going to regret this? And then I would go on Troma's Twitter page, and I would see video from the set where there were literally people just like in little kiddie pools full of brown liquid and these floating turds. And then, like, Ron Jeremy is running around the set with these topless women. And I'm thinking, you know what? I think I'm good. I think I was wise to stay away from this one.
Yeah,
But
I
Yeah.
think you dodged. You may have
yeah.
dodged
A shit
couple
bullet
things there.
there.
I
Some
did.
shit
I
bullets
did
there.
see the film last summer, and to see if I had any regrets, and now, having seen the film, no regrets. I can say confidently that I made the right decision. However, I do have some affection for Troma in the early days, and yeah, the first Toxic Avenger, at least, is a fun movie still. I think
Yeah,
it's being
yeah,
remade this year. I even remember
yeah.
liking the sequels. There's no way they're very good, but there's something kind of pure about them. I may have to get a 4K Toxic Avenger
I kind
set.
of I kind of want to check out the sequels. Yeah, I've seen the first one. I actually
It,
did. I think we did commentary with it with the film club guys back in the
Yeah.
day. It's
I
out
think you
there
may have.
somewhere. Um,
Um, yeah, they used to. I mean, Troma used to be able to just upload all of their catalog to
Yeah.
directly to YouTube once upon a time. Now not so much. Now I think you have to go to their website and whatnot. They actually may have like a streaming thing going on there
I
as
think they
well.
do. Yeah, a
yeah,
few of their films are only available through that.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
need to see a Troma
What's
movie.
interesting is I think YouTube like kicked them off there or something. I don't know. YouTube has changed their rules and regulations and things so much over the last several years. Who knows? But this collection here, I think, is coming directly from them because I think they put out all of their own
they
Blu-rays.
are.
They
Last
Yeah,
time I
do.
remembered.
yeah,
I think Vinegar
So
Syndrome was involved with the transfer, and everyone was speculating if this is going to be, because, Vinegar Syndrome announced that they're going to have a 4-film box set in August, and this is when this is coming out. But it sounds like, no, it is being distributed, purely through Troma.
yeah, and for those of you wondering, this set contains the 4 Toxic Avenger films: the Toxic Avenger 2, the Toxic Avenger 3, The Last Temptation of Toxie, and then it's Citizen Toxie, the Toxic Avenger 4, which came out in the year 2000. And like Johnny just said, there is actually like a mainstream studio, I big budget in quotes, version of Toxic Avenger coming out eventually with Peter Dinklage. The last
Yeah.
time I heard, so I don't know if that's still happening. Steven, have
I
you heard
think it's in
anything
the
about that?
can. Yeah, I think
I,
it's shot.
yeah, so look for that. I'm curious how they're going to
I'm
market
curious.
that
Yeah,
to an
And to go
audience.
back to our conversation from earlier, Toxic Avenger also got the musical treatment. And I will say that was one of the better, sort of musical adaptation movies that I've seen. That one was kind of fun.
Well, yeah, well, Troma's already, you can't downgrade too much more than a Troma movie, for the most part. So
Yeah,
it
they
kind of
kept the
works.
spirit of where it came from.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, Trome is something that I think is something that I got a little bit of education in a few years back, but it's one I still need to go through a couple of the classics. I've seen Killer Condom, I think is another one that I've
Yes.
seen. Um and yeah, there's a few other ones. But all right. Well, let's what do we want to move on to next? We do have
Yeah,
the
I would
Warner
say
Brothers, big Warner Brothers.
we do have that. There's some other
What's some other
strays.
strays before we go to that?
Shout Factory's putting out Blu-rays of Critical Condition as well as Crazy People, and Crazy People is stars Dudley Moore, Daryl Hannah, Paul Reiser, and I think and Critical Condition is the Richard Pryor film. They've put out a couple of Richard Pryor films.
Yeah.
I just observing that, and I don't think this is part of their Shout Select line. I can't see the little banner on there, so I'm not sure if it is or if it's just from them straight up. Nothing in the way of special features for either of these, I don't think. Um,
Or at least
but
not.
Shout
We
Factory
don't
just
know
loves to
yet.
randomly drop these.
They
Like,
just
yeah,
randomly
we're putting
drop
this out.
stuff. Yeah.
But Stevie, you do want to talk about the Warner Brothers thing?
Okay, so this is going to be one of them things where I'm going to run through it really fast because there's a
Yeah,
lot of movies in these sets. Um,
there. How do we explain this? So for the 100 years of Warner Brothers, they're putting out these big kind of commemorative sets. They're putting out
a la the
Blu-ray and
Sony,
4K.
yeah, a la the Sony Picture Classic. What they're doing with theirs,
Yeah,
where they're
well, they did. They put out that big set, which
well that
I,
one
yeah.
and then the ones with the Columbia Classic sets.
Oh, the
Yeah.
Columbia Classics
That's what
one.
I
This
meant.
is kind of like Warner Brothers version of the Columbia Classic
Yeah,
sets.
yeah.
But what's interesting about these, they're putting them out on both Blu-ray and 4K. But um, a lot of the Blu-rays, I'm assuming, are just some of the Blu-rays that we've already have in our collections and have already been out for forever, just
That's usually how
repackaged.
these work, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and right now, from what I can see, is they're only announced the UK dates right now for these, and they all seem to be September and August.
Hmm.
Steven, is that no? I got the US one.
It's going to hit the
There's
market in
US.
April. April is what it's saying.
Okay,
Scheduled
yeah, I've got
for
April for the US.
yeah,
Yeah, for the US Blu-ray sets, and then I've got August for the 4K UK sets.
yeah,
For yeah,
yeah. So
don't get all my K's mixed up. But anywho, go what you go doing. I just
well,
wanted to say that there's a bunch of these.
yeah. There's 4 volumes. So this is the information that I'm seeing here. So volume 1 is called Award Winners. In that set, and like I said, I'm just going to run through these. We're not going to try to talk about these. Too many movies to talk about here. But
Right
there's
on.
25 films in volume 1. We have Grand Hotel, Mutiny on the Bounty, The Adventures of Robin Hood, Mrs. Miniver, Casablanca, Key Largo, Streetcar Named Desire, Ben Hur, Whatever Happened to Baby Jane, Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, Bonnie and Clyde, Cool Hand Luke, Bullet, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Purple Rain, The Color Purple, Unforgiven, The Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, Mystic River, Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, Million Dollar Baby, The Departed, Argo, A Star is Born, and Judas and the Black Messiah. Where in the hell is the first Lord of the Rings movie?
That's
It's
so
in
weird
one
to me.
of the other boxes. How
Is it?
shameless
Is it?
is that? Yes, I think it's in like the
That's good. First of all,
action
I'll be
adventure
straight
box.
up. I'm not interested in any of these because I already own all of these.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I own them like where they're supposed to be in my collection. But anywho, these are straight up Blu-ray sets for those of you
Yeah.
interested. The
Yeah.
4K set is something that's different and
It's a different thing. Yeah.
with
It's
only 25
lit-
films.
yeah. So these are all Blu-ray sets. If there was 25 4Ks in one thing, that would be ridiculous.
If these were
All
four sets with
4Ks,
25 4Ks a piece,
it'd be crazy.
this would be
It'd be like
monumental.
$1,000 for this set.
Yeah,
Yeah.
easy a piece.
But
And that's
so
a good
that's
roster of films, but yeah, I will buy them individually and in my
yeah.
desired format.
Thing is, I own all of these individually
Yeah.
for the most part, and it's going to be the same discs. I don't see these getting remastered, and most of these movies have been remastered already recently, like Lord of the Rings.
Casablanca
Just had a
Exactly,
brand new
yeah.
remaster. Casablanca. you know.
So yeah, only
But volume
thing.
2.
So yeah, when it comes to the other than the films, you're going to get digital codes. Also, a commemorative packaging, of course, with pen. They got some collectible pens in there. They got a 28-page booklet filled with original poster art and all that stuff like that. So it is a nice package. I don't know about how the discs are held in there, if I'm liking the way that looks, but
Yeah, it looks
uh,
like they're top loaded like sleeves type of
yeah,
situation, which that already gets me that
little
already gets
bit
me scared.
little bit scared, but that's the first volume award winner. Second volume, another 25 film collection, comedies, dramas, and musicals. So we have 42nd Street, The Wizard of Oz, Citizen Kane, Singing in the Rain, A Star is Born, which I'm guessing is one of the other versions than the one that's in the other one. I'm guessing. um, a Rebel Without a Cause, Dr. Zhivago, The Outsiders, Risky Business, Gremlins, The Goonies, Little Shop of Horrors, Bullet Again. So are they double dipping? I'm guessing in some of these. Um,
Oh
Empire
yeah.
of the Sun, the Bodyguard, Dumb and Dumber, Friday, Boogie Nights, Selena, Practical Magic, The Iron Giant, Elf, Hairspray, The Hangover, Invictus, and Crazy Rich Asians.
Oh,
Um,
that casts a real wide net, doesn't it? Wow, that's a
Yeah, it
little bit of
does.
everything.
And
Mm.
but what's interesting is I'm noticing here, yeah, they're it looks like they are they double dipping on some of these movies and these sets?
Yeah, you
Like
did
they
say
have
bullet twice, right?
yeah, bullets in
Did I
both of
dream
these sets.
that? Hmm,
No, it's in both these sets.
that's an odd
Unless
choice.
there's multiple versions of the movie, and the same as with A Star Is
There's
Born.
about to
Well,
be.
there's
Yeah,
like 4
Spielberg
different
is about to
versions.
make
Yeah.
a bullet, and yeah, there's 4 Stars was Born. I think it's the Judy James Mason one that's in this set.
Yeah, yeah, I would think so, but it's like we don't got enough information here to really know. It's not giving me years of dates when these films are released or what, but I can understand maybe that A Star Is Born has 3 or 4 versions, you know, so that one can definitely be a different version. But wait a second, I'm about to cough.
Okay.
Yeah, these I've
But
never
yeah,
been compelled to get one of these boxes, even though every once in a while they'll put, and I don't think that seems to be the case with this one. I mean, I own all the ones that I want already, but every once in a while one will come out where there was one last year where Orlando was in there, a new 4K Orlando in a box of other movies that I all owned. It's like, well, I want that Orlando, but I don't want to double dip on every other movie
yeah,
in this box. And you just have to hope for the best that you get these
The,
standalone releases
yeah, the
from.
thing is, for me, is I would rather own them individually myself, and like I said, I do. The same thing with the Columbia Classic sets. I've been kind of waiting for them to release those movies individually,
Hmm.
and they've done for a couple of them, and they plan on doing a couple of them. But then some of them they haven't yet, and I'm
yeah,
talking like from like their first box they put out years ago.
Yeah.
We're still waiting on a couple
yeah,
to be released individually, and that's I know that's a whole Sony thing, but still, it it bothers me when they don't give you multiple options. But there are 2 more sets.
yeah.
Steven, if you want me to take over because
No,
you're getting winded, tell
I'm
me.
good. I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good. I just started getting a little bit of a tickle there.
Well,
Um,
this is the fun
I was gonna
box set.
say Volume 3. I think is going to be a popular set, even though
All of these
it
movies have
fucks
been
with the mind.
released multiple
It fucks
times.
with the mind that there's a lot of movies in here that are part of franchises that you're only getting one of the movies of. So that's kind of weird to me. But another 25 films. We got fantasy, action, and adventure in Volume 3. So we have Superman, which I'm guessing is the first Superman movie.
Chris Reeve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Christopher Reeve. A Never-Ending Story, Supergirl. We have Lethal Weapon, the first one, just the first one, which is fucking with me. Batman, the Tim Burton, I'm guessing. Twister, awesome. Uh, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Ocean's 11. Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. Constantine. V for Vendetta. Pan's Labyrinth. 300. The Dark Knight. Man of Steel. Wonder Woman. Sorry, I accidentally clicked on something. It took me off the page.
That's okay.
That really messed me up.
You need me to continue, or
No,
you got
I
it?
got it now. And Justice League, Fantastic Beasts and Where You Find Them, Aquaman, Shazam, Joker, Birds of Prey, Suicide Squad, and Black Adam. A lot of losers there at the end.
Yeah,
I
it
don't
really
want any
drops
of
off.
them movies at the end.
I just say like they're really, I guess, pushing the whole
Yeah,
action, and not pushing it, but like these are like all of our stuff. I mean, it's yeah,
yeah,
I can
they
understand what
really
you're
really
saying.
hit that DCEU thing at the end
The
there.
later one, the one that they
Yeah,
just kind of scrapped and are starting over from scratch, they're still pushing those movies though. Like
yeah,
every time you see, like when they had a whole 100-year montage of like Warner Brothers, 100 years, come love us. They put in a lot of those movies towards the end, and I'm like, you didn't even love these movies when they came out, Warner
yeah,
Brothers.
yeah.
That's a whole other story. But I'm just saying, it's weird the marketing for that. But yet again, I'm sure many of our audience members, many people already own these movies because they've re-released a lot of these so many times in so many different forms. Um, I would have much appreciated a lot of these getting remastered, redone Blu-rays or 4Ks like they need to be done. Specifically like Ocean's 11. Ocean's 11 Blu-ray came out over a decade ago and is
Yeah.
notoriously needs a revamp. Um, but yeah, that's just me. But I know
I,
we got a fourth one here to
we
go
got a
through.
fourth one here. I think honestly, we already know a few things are already gotten announced as single releases, like Cool Hand Luke, Maltese Falcon.
Rebel
Um,
Without a Cause.
yeah, they're getting 4K treatments as well.
No, those
Um,
are part of the 4K set.
yeah, so I think some of these ones that we're getting in this set are going to get nice releases by themselves, and you know might not make it really worth it to you to get these big sets. These are cool sets, I think.
They're gonna
The
be
pack
nice display
they're
pieces, I'll
nice
tell you
nice
that.
display, and I think that's what they're banking on, is that people that are collectors that are really going to be into the collecting of these volumes, and the look of them, and that that would typically get me, but there's just the curation of the sets is what's taking is kind of pulling me off, because I would much rather my sets be a more curated and focused set. I'm not really into studio, um, like these studio release sets, like the Columbia Classic. I'm not into. I like something that's more focused on a director or an actor, or that can really dig deep into something and not just a sprawling like broad grouping of films. Is not really my thing when it comes to box sets. But
Yeah.
going into the last volume, we have the fourth volume. It's thrillers, sci-fi, and horror. And honestly, this one might be the one I'm kind of the most interested in. If there was
It's the
one I was
most
going to maybe
consistent,
get,
I'd say, in terms of
yeah,
quality.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. King Kong, which I'm going to assume is the original King Kong, but it could be the Peter Jackson, maybe.
I think
Um,
that's put out by another studio.
yeah, okay. Maltese Falcon, Children of the Damned, 2001: A Space Odyssey, A Clockwork Orange, The Exorcist, All the President's Men, The Shining, Blade Runner: The Final Cut, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Full Metal Jacket, Goodfellas, Natural Born Killers, The Shawshank Redemption, Interview with the Vampire, Seven, The Matrix, The Green Mile, Inception, The Conjuring, Gravity, Her, Annabelle, It, and Dune. Guess they decided not to. They didn't have room for It Two in there.
Or
They just put
Dune
It
2,
One.
still on the horizon.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah. I mean, look, these are fun sets, as I said before. They're kind of cool display pieces, as Andrew said. I'm assuming these are all in the $200 range, maybe even more. Um, and I'm not. I'm sorry, I'm not going to spend $200 on these sets. I will pick and choose of movies out of these sets that I want if they're going to single release them. And that's. I think we're all kind of on that page. I think.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
for you youthful children out there who are just getting into collecting, these boxes might be perfect for you, because if you don't
Yeah,
own
maybe.
any of them, I'd say a lot of these are worth owning. But only if you don't already have them on your shelf or aren't holding out for a nice fancy 4K somewhere down the line.
I do think it's maybe a little bit overdoing it to have 25 films in the set.
That's a lot for
It's
four
it's a
sets. I
lot.
couldn't believe it. Yeah.
I mean, it'd be one thing if you're like giving me, like I said before, like a filmography of like a Bergman set where you're like I want all his movies in one thing, and
Hmm.
it's something that I'm as a collector want to collect all of a certain director stuff that's interesting to me, but not this broad spectrum of like random films, 25 of them. Like it's just a little bit too much, I think, for that type of theme for the set.
Yeah. And each box has some undistinguished masterpieces in them. And then each one also has at least a few stinkers. That's like, oh gosh, now I
Yeah,
own, I don't know,
you're
Supergirl.
making me buy. Yeah, you're making me buy Suicide Squad
There you
to
go. Yeah.
get that, Exorcist or whatever else is in the set. Like it's like, nah, don't
It
want
is
to. I don't want these movies grouped together in a set.
it
Like,
is it is baffling that they have they have the second and third Lord of the Rings film in the first box set, and then the first film in the third box set. So it's
That's
not even like a
just
complete collection.
shameless.
all the films won Academy Awards. I mean, it's not like they couldn't
Yeah,
put
I
them
know
all
the
in.
the first two films I think won 4 apiece, and the last one won 11.
Yeah,
So it's like, why didn't just put them all in there? I mean, just put them all in there. It makes no sense to me whatsoever. Whoever was coming up with that idea,
And if you
really,
really love they should know, if you really love Lord of the Rings, you already own probably multiple copies
oh,
of it. So no one
oh
is buying
yeah.
these boxes just for in the first place. So it's absurd to
honestly,
separate them that way.
honestly, they should have just separated the volumes by era. They should have been
Hmm.
like the 1920s through the or whatever, 1930s through the 1940s. They should have did it by era. And if they wanted to come up with a theme like a name for the era, like Golden Age, would it come up with
Well,
names fine, but that would have been
well,
the better way
that's
to go.
actually how the 4K sets are done. The 4K sets are done classic Hollywood, new Hollywood, and then modern blockbusters. That's how
Yeah,
the
well, that
4K
makes
That's
sets
what they
way more
should.
sense.
are
Yeah.
Yeah,
disintegrated.
they should have done that
Are
with these. Yeah,
Yeah, and then there's also and then they also have 100 years of Warner Brothers like regular box set of 4K that has 30 movies in it. Yeah, it's a different setup depending on the formatting and whatnot. Like,
yeah,
and there's better stuff in those sets than are in these sets. Like, wow,
yeah.
I'm just
Um,
looking at just some of them, just scrolling through it pretty quickly. There's some crossover, but those sets look much more worth it. I think even price wise. But anywho,
okay,
that's
but
something else.
that's the
We got
that's the big Warner
yeah,
Brothers
we got some other
rollouts.
we got some other things before we get into kind of the
A
uh,
couple of the main
couple of
announces.
slates
Yeah,
maybe. So the new Godfathers is getting put out by Raro Video, which is an Italian mafia film from 1979, and it's dealing with um, trying to stop like drug trafficking when it um, uh, comes to the mafia trafficking drugs into the U.S. and stuff and something like that. But Raro Video is putting that out in April. Sounds pretty cool to me. Yet again, it's Raro Video making a release from a company that we don't really talk a lot about. So that's kind of cool. And also, I did remember the One Synapse film that's getting a release, and it's a documentary. It's Invaluable: The True Story of an Epic Artist, and it's a documentary about the person who did the special effects and makeup work, uh, Tom Sullivan, who did the
Oh.
makeup works for Evil Dead 2, and I think Army of Darkness.
Hmm.
And they interview like tons of people like Bruce Campbell, Ted Raimi, bunch of people in this documentary. I think this documentary came out a few years ago. I think
14, it
2017,
looks
something like
like.
that. Oh, I'm way off.
No.
But yeah, this yeah. So this is that's something interesting.
Yeah, definitely.
I do like the behind the scenes documentary type stuff, and says it has nearly 4 hours of special features.
mm,
Okay.
nice.
And then I think Kino had at least one new announcement this week, and that was oh no, they have two.
And
Uh,
then there was a couple strays that uh,
that I missed. Yeah.
yeah.
And Terminal Invasion, which is a Bruce Campbell TV movie from 2002, directed by Sean S. Cunningham. Is that the same director as Friday the 13th?
That
I think yep, it
I
is.
think that's
It
right.
is.
Yeah.
Okay, I
And
just
Deep
pulled that out
Star
of nowhere.
6. And Deep Star 6. Whatever that
Yeah.
is.
Uh, and then there's an Alan Ladd, Veronica Lake film, which has me intrigued, and that is Saigon from 1948. And that's going to be something I definitely have my eye on because I have other Alan Ladd, Veronica Lake
Yeah.
films in my
Last
collection as
Key.
well.
Yeah, Blue Dahlia. Yeah. No, I'm all about that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've got. Oh, that's a different. That's a different film, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, This Gun for Hire. Yeah.
I have this gun for hire, which does star Veronica Lake. It's set in that same film noir era of the late 1940s. Oh, early 1940s. It's 1942. I'm way off. Um, but Steven, is there anything else that you got
We
that I
also
missed
have
out on?
I mean, there was what was the other? There was the Lon Chaney little. I think it was a
Oh
Kino
yes, The
Lon Chaney thing.
Trap.
The
Oh,
Trap. Yeah.
yeah.
The Trap, which is being put out by Kino Classics, um, regular line, I guess, not the Kino Lorber Studio Classics. And that's a Lon Chaney film from 1922. It's a silent film, and I did get to see this. This is available to watch on YouTube and various public domain sources, if you will. Doesn't look really, really great. It's a film that's only about an hour long, I think, and I'm glad it's getting some type of restoration because it desperately needs it. So it's about um, a miner's. I'll just read the synopsis. A miner's happiness is destroyed when a rival steals his mine. He becomes obsessed with revenge and plans a trap for the man who took his mine. And the person who is the victim of said theft is Lon Chaney. And yeah, this is coming out in April.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen enough Lon Chaney. Maybe was this worth picking up? Is this a worthwhile? Yes.
Yeah.
No.
He
Uh,
did make a lot, so you never quite know. I'm unfamiliar with it myself, but I'm intrigued at least.
I
Yeah.
got to watch it and it's okay. It's fine. It's okay. The quality was so bad that at some parts I couldn't see what was going on.
Yeah.
Like literally, there would be some parts where he's like hiding in like a bush or whatever, and the whole screen is just covered
Jumbled.
in
Yeah.
just like scratches and dirt and noise and all that kind of stuff, so you couldn't really see anything. The plot is fine. Lon Chaney's good in it. He's known as the Man of a Thousand Faces. I think that was his nickname. Um, but I'm just glad we're getting more silent films on Blu-ray in general. That's always something that I think Kino and Kino
Absolutely.
Classics have done a lot. I think they've announced a lot of that recently. A lot of early Douglas Sirk stuff they like to put out as well. Um, yeah, I'm intrigued by it, but there's other kind of Kino Classic stuff I want to get my hands on first before this one.
Okay. But let's move on over to the Vinegar Syndrome stuff. That
Yes,
they have their Valentine's Day sale going on right now. It's live and it ends Sunday at midnight
probably
EST, I believe.
after you've already listened to the show.
Mhm.
It
So
might come out before. Right, I have time tomorrow night.
okay,
That this might get out Sunday night. So
yeah. And
right
for those
before
of you in the
this
know,
ends. Yeah.
those of you
Yeah.
kind of know about the sale already. If you don't, I guess they do this every year. It's their Valentine's Day sale, where there's like 170 titles that are on sale for pretty decent prices. A
Mostly
lot of it
their
is their
Peakorama adult fare.
mhm. And
Yeah.
there's sexploitation stuff, their adult film type of things and Picorama and whatnot. But they do have a couple of announcements. They announced Massage Parlor Murders getting a 4K UHD release, which I think was one of their earlier Blu-ray releases, so that's an upgrade. A couple of Picorama titles, the Double Exposure of Holly Blu-ray release, a double feature I hear here I think is, or is it the same film just different titles? Probably should have checked that
I
up.
think it's
Mm.
two
It
different titles, or no, I think it's two
okay,
different films.
gotcha.
Body
Body
Girls.
Girls and Let's Get Physical.
I am all
Uh,
about
oh,
that. For anyone with leg warmer fetishes, like it's
mm,
that you're gonna get the goods on that. I'm sure.
it's interesting how in that era, I would say what eras in which that came out was like 80s, 90s type era where aerobics workout videos were like sexual turn-ons for a lot of men and
Oh
women
yeah,
and
Jane
whatnot.
Fonda and the Farrah Fawcett, I'm sure had one, and yeah, no, the '80s aerobics boom was an exciting time for the adult industry. I think.
It's a different time,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And it's these films that they put out, the Picorama stuff and these other films are very much time capsules. I find them more interesting, based on the era in which they came out, being the '70s and kind of seeing what that era of the adult film world looked like, because it's vastly different or
it
changed
is.
vastly different over the years,
Yeah, I
and so
gotta
that's what's
say,
always intrigued me.
yeah, I'm kind of a huge fan of the Picorama line, and now you have to sift through a lot of crap, but I do find this era of adult cinema to be rather fascinating, and it's a relatively new venture for me. A few years ago, the Quad Cinema in New York City did a retrospective of adult films shot in New York in the 1970s, and my wife and I, or no, no, she didn't go with me. I went. I thought, well, I'll check one out. This could be interesting. And I went to, I guess, what is considered a minor classic of the genre, the opening of Misty Beethoven. And I was rather blown away. It's a Pygmalion story, but I couldn't believe, the sex aside, that this is a pretty fascinatingly well made film with a lot of these films have amazing music. I mean, that's sometimes the real draw, is they are fully scored with great music, and you know, sometimes they're funny, sometimes they, you know, they're shooting in real locations. I know Vinegar or Picorama put out, I think it was Public Affairs, which my wife and I watched, and everything was shot like right on our block, basically at Union Square. Every location was like, oh, where we walk by every day and stuff like that. And I do think that there is an interesting novelty to seeing these old films, and yeah, like you said, a time capsule piece.
Yeah, it is. The what is interesting about, the adult film industry, even to this day, these are full movie productions, like with scripts and storylines, you know, state of the art cameras and such. Not with modern day stuff. I know maybe back then a little cheaper and whatnot, but it's just like these are full movie production, part of the movie industry, part of the movie industry history. And it's just fascinating that, Vinegar Syndrome constantly kind of, keeps that era alive, or keeps that version alive in this rather unique way, giving it probably much better treatment than most studios give other
Yeah.
other films, in terms of quality releases and whatnot. But a couple of the other things they have here is A Woman's Torment and Her Name Was Lisa. I think these are two Blu-ray, like DVD to Blu-ray upgrades or something like
Hmm.
that. um, the only thing I got to watch out of any of these was Massage Parlor Murders, and this movie is kind of exactly what the title suggests. They don't really not really hiding, uh, what's going on in this movie. So this movie, follows this detective, in believe it's New York, and what is happening is there's a serial murderer who is, killing massage parlor masseuses, and that seems to be their thing, and he's trying to track this person down, and yeah, that's the movie. And for 90 minutes, if you will, it's kind of a low budget B grindhouse film, exploitation film from the '70s, and that is exactly what you get in it. It's not quite as, sleazy as I was expecting it to be. It's not quite a sexploitation film, even though there is gratuitous nudity and, stuff like that. There's not. It's not an adult film per se. It's more of that exploitation type of thing.
It's not like a
But it's
Jess Branco, like,
no, it's not that level of sleaziness, it doesn't go that far. It's literally just the only thing that's risque about it is the nudity and the murdering and stuff like that that's happening, with the fake blood and stabbings and whatnot. Um, but yeah, the acting isn't great, the writing isn't great, it's cheesy and corny and whatnot. But it's fun to watch, what I mean, if you're into that type of stuff, into that kind of '70s exploitations grindhouse cinema, if you will.
And you can watch it in 4K
In
now.
in pr yeah, in pristine 4K. I was just talking about how, they're doing more for some of these films that you've seen, more
Yeah.
classic films get the treatment of,
and
in
give
high
a mold
dynamic
check
range
to
as
all the
well.
actors. Yeah.
I know. I'm still waiting for, Blu-ray releases for some classic Hollywood films that they may never happen, but you can watch Massage Parlor Murders in crystal clear
Yes.
4K.
Yes. Yeah, well, along with the film releases, they did also offer more some new merch for their 10th anniversary.
Yes.
And so I actually, earlier I added one of these things, and then just as we were talking now, I added something else because I made an order a couple weeks ago when their partner labels put out stuff, and now I added one of these nice sweatshirts. I had to
Mm.
add that to the order,
Steven
and then
does like the merch.
I may
well,
get one
I
myself.
honestly, I don't get as much as you. I don't really get as much as you think. I think I have a Vinegar Syndrome shirt. I got a Fun City Editions and a Criterion shirt. It's about all I got. I don't have a lot of label shirts. I need to get
Mm.
more. But the other thing I just added because I just thought of it was the Doris Wishman Picorama title.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
needed to get that, and so I added that to my order. So that's going to be coming. I believe it's
Yeah, I mean,
called "Come with Me, My Love," and Satan was a lady. Is a
yeah,
double feature.
if you're
Doris
gonna get the
Wishman.
Doris Wishman box set, you might as well get her other work as well,
Oh
her
And I
yeah,
book
think
film work as
all three
well.
of those box sets are on sale as part of the sale too, which, yeah,
Yes,
oh
they're
yeah,
is it?
fantastic.
Are
y-
they?
yeah.
I
There's
think they
like,
might
like I
be,
said,
Now I
yeah.
might have to go get the other two. Damn it!
yeah, there are
Thanks,
some Vinegar
Johnny.
Syndrome. I know there's some Vinegar Syndrome stuff on sale, some partner label stuff on sale, and Picorama stuff on sale, and there's like,
God
yeah,
damn it!
there was so
We're
much.
supposed
There's
to
like
be
170 titles.
we're supposed to be influencing Johnny and others. He's come on here
And
and he's
here I
getting
am
me to buy
costing you
stuff.
money. Yeah.
I
Damn
know,
it.
seriously.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
we've
the
not
rule with
spent
this
this
sale
money.
is that if someone disrobes, then it's on sale. Half off
Yeah,
clothes,
I'm
half off
guessing.
the price or whatever it is.
Yeah, I'm looking at. Yeah, it looks like. Yeah, it does look like those Doris Wishman sets are 50% off.
Shit.
You got
Yeah,
to do
I
it.
might have
Damn,
I might have to
all
go
three
ahead
of
and get
them.
them. I
I
already
think.
have the first volume. I just need to get second and third. So I'll think about it.
Nice.
At least
Uh,
get the. I already ordered the Picorama title, so that's already
Which
coming.
will
I
keep
might
you
add.
warmer, a sweatshirt or Doris Wishman films? There you go. I think you
Wow,
know the answer.
That's debatable.
that's debatable.
That's debatable,
Uh,
depending on the situation.
yeah.
Um,
So that is it for Vinegar Syndrome. We do have. Do you want to take another? Let's take a trip over to Radiance because
let's do it.
Yes.
they did announce their upcoming titles. These were already titles I think we knew were coming. We
They
just
they
didn't
ki-
know when.
they kind of like there's been like a kind of release announcements that were like very like a whole bunch of releases that were going to potentially be coming in the future, and I think these were kind of already out there, but we didn't know when they were coming, and now they're kind of confirmed to be the I think is the are these the
May.
May
Yeah, these are the
releases?
May
Yeah,
titles,
yeah.
and we've
Along
got.
with I think this is the same month. May is also the month we're getting the Franco Nero box set as
Oh,
Yes.
well.
gee, yeah.
Is in May. So,
Yeah, so we've got 3, I think 3 coming out in May, because there is a bundle here that you can get, which I'm pretty sure is limited, is Yakuza Graveyard, The Bride Wore Black, and She Dies Tomorrow.
yes.
And if you get the bundle, you get exclusive postcards.
Yeah.
This is at radiancefilms.co.uk.
Yeah, and there's 2 bundles. There's the bundle
Mm,
without there's a bundle without the
She
She
Dies
Dies
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow, and then one that one with it. So,
Hmm.
and then they also announced standard editions for The Working Class Goes to Heaven and Cutter's Way. Are also getting standard editions, I believe, that are going to be available in May.
Yes, I
Um,
think Married to the Mob, their limited edition um, sold out. Or was that Cutter's Way sold out? I think you're right. Yeah,
it's
Cutter's
well,
Way sold out.
These are the 2 I'm seeing that are announced right now. Are them 2 for May for standard editions? I'm sure Married to the Mob's going to sell out as well if it hasn't already.
Yeah.
But did anybody see any of these? Any of the new announcements?
I did. I
Okay.
revisited The Bride Wore Black, which I hadn't
Mhm.
seen in some time, but I had the old Twilight time, and I threw that on. I think Kino just put it out too, like recently, even.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, Kino
but
just went Truffaut crazy and was
yeah,
just like, "Here's all Truffauts, like 60s and 70s work. Have at it."
but I'm a big fan of The Bride Wore Black. It's one of those like it's Truffaut doing a trashy revenge picture, but it's a good one and highly influential. Anyone who's a Kill Bill fan, you will recognize things throughout. The decor is a bit different. It's France instead of the Far East, but it's a lot of fun. I think that the way it unfolds is very interesting. Where you see, her murder a few people before you even have any inkling as to why or what they've done to deserve this. But yeah, I've always been a fan of this film, and it's got a great Bernard Herrmann score. So for those who haven't seen it, I
Nice.
definitely recommend it.
Yeah, for those of you who haven't seen it, it's a revenge film starring Jean Moreau, who is a famous French actress.
Yeah,
And I mean, for those of you who know French cinema, you've probably seen her around. She's in Jules and Jim, which is really a great film. Um,
Elevator to the
she's also
Gallows.
Elevator to
Oh
the
yeah.
Gallows. That's the Louis Malle
Yeah,
film. She's also in La Notte, which is the Antonioni film. Um, yeah, she's in a lot of films. She just recently passed away, I know, in like 2017.
yeah.
I remember that she was in a lot of Orson Welles' stuff as well.
Hmm.
Um, she was in
Chimes at
Chimes at
midnight.
Chimes at
Midnight,
Midnight. Yeah.
and some other stuff that I can't remember. Wish I wish I could.
You should have
Um,
studied. You should
I
have
probably
For,
studied.
should have studied.
for any New
I should
York
have studied.
listeners, Film Forum I know is about to do a Jean Moreau retrospective coming up end of this month, and they're including the film she directed as well, which I had never seen. She directed, I think, 4 films. So I'm curious. I'll be at a few of those.
Oh yeah,
Nice.
I'm actually intrigued about what she directed. Um, yeah, so The Bride Wore Black is, yeah, like um as we've been saying, is really good. Um, yeah, it is his attempt to kind of do like and it's not even like a trashy revenge film. It's like a upper class revenge film
Yeah.
in a way. Um, yeah, she was in The Trial. That was the other
Yes.
film that she was in, other Orson Welles film that she was in. And she was in A Woman Is a Woman. Um, yeah, and Bay of Angels, which is a Jacques Demy film. So people know who Jean Moreau is. If you see her, you probably know her. But yeah, this is another one it's already been released by Kino, so you can get it there, or you can get this release here. And I did get to see She Dies Tomorrow when it came out, actually, because this thing came out in 2020 during the pandemic, I want to say. And
Yeah.
this was one of those where you could rent it online or it was streaming somewhere. Um, like an apocalyptic film coming out during a pandemic.
Oh wow.
Which is
Not the
why
best timing.
I avoided entirely. Then I actually watched it this afternoon because I figured we'd be discussing it, and yeah, I when I heard the premise in 2020, the summer of COVID, uh, I already had fears and thoughts that I might die tomorrow, and so I avoided it like the plague that we were all experiencing. But
Yeah.
yeah, I saw it today, and it is quite a haunting little film. I'm definitely intrigued by it. It's one I'm going to continue thinking about. Amy Seimetz directed it. I know she's an actress who was in like Upstream Color and a few other things, and she directed a lot of the Steven Soderbergh Girlfriend Experience show on Showtime. But yeah, she seems to be quite talented, and she attracted some good actors for this. And yeah, it's a rather disturbing portrait, but uh, quite haunting. It's definitely going to stick with me.
Yeah, it's a film dealing primarily with the unknown fear of death, which
Yeah,
is really kind of one of the most frightening kind of prospects, is just being scared and not knowing why is just horrific in and of itself. But that's kind of what the film delves into, and it's a contagious fear as well. That's the whole kind
yeah.
of pandemic of it all within the film, is that it's not so much that the world is ending. It's everyone has the same fear as if everything is ending, or the fear of death and the fear of the unknown of it all. And
If
man,
one
it's
person
really
says,
well done.
yeah, if one person says, I'm going to die tomorrow, that person then starts to get this sinking feeling within them that they too will, and it just keeps spreading. And yeah, I really think that she made inadvertently the perfect pandemic film. I mean, it wasn't maybe enjoyable to watch in 2020, but it certainly captured a moment in time that was happening that she never could have known was coming. But wow,
Yeah,
it packs a punch.
in retrospective, it works. It's kind of one of those films where, like you just said, you know, it's it's appropriate for the time. Appropriate meaning that it's kind of commenting on the literal time, not knowing that was going to happen, but it's also kind of like the most popular movie at the beginning of the pandemic that was streaming was Contagion. You just mentioned
Yeah.
Soderbergh, and it's like everyone was thinking about the same thing at the same time, which was like a virusy disease that's just unstoppable,
No,
wreaking
it's
havoc on the world.
the idea that an idea, even
Mm,
a thought, can be a virus.
right.
It's a contagious thing
I just
that
it's just
can,
I
yeah.
interesting that everyone was thinking about a contagious virus, and that movie came out a decade earlier, 2013 or earlier than that.
Mm.
Um, and just fascinating how how when movies come out, how pertinent they are to the time in which they come out in and not knowing that they are going to be. But yeah, it is a really good film. She Dies Tomorrow, but this is an art house avant garde film, like we just said, dealing with something like dealing with that idea more than dealing with an actual plot, like a first, second, and third act, a goal or whatever. It's just dealing with a theme mostly. That's what carries the movie. So if you're into that kind of stuff, that movie's definitely a recommendation. But you kind of have to love art house cinema to kind of appreciate it. Um, but the only one of these that I didn't get to see, Steven, I don't think it was Yakuza Graveyard, which is a great title to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know how it sounds to you.
N-
I'm gonna
di-
get these anyway because I kind of want to be up on the Radiance thing in general.
yeah,
So I'm gonna see it eventually.
I did not see the film, but I am familiar with the filmmaker behind it, Kenji Fukasaku. A lot of his stuff has come out through Arrow, actually, and of course, we're very familiar with Battle Royale. It's one of his most popular films. Um, but he also did a lot of other good stuff in the 70s. He did all the Battle Without Honor and Humanity
Yeah.
kind of saga. Was a big popular one, along with some other kind of police, kind of crime mobster type of films throughout that time. So yeah, I mean, I have the sets from the Battle with Honor and Humanity, and they're good. I've watched a few of the films in there; they're really good. So yeah,
Yeah. In addition to my wife learning karate, she's also learning to speak Japanese, which has really upped our Japanese cinema watching at home. So yeah, we recently were
yeah,
doing Battles Without Honor and Humanity, and so this is the next natural step. I will absolutely be picking this up.
yeah. I and the Radiance stuff. It's just he's picking such kind of eclectic titles that are also just deep cuts. That's my he. It's like Fran just he's curated this stuff for me. Like I just
Yeah.
that's these things are all very obscure and so I mean some of these have had releases before, but the way he's presenting them, and I love the cover art as well on both of these newer titles here. Um, so yeah, I mean, I'll be picking these up as well. Um, Not sure if I'm, with all the things going on in the UK, I'm not sure if I'll be picking these up direct. See, I still everybody's getting their stuff, and I'm still waiting on mine, and I'm like, Orbit DVD's got it already. How did he get it
Mhm.
already? He lives up the street, but I can't get mine that I ordered direct, and he had to get his direct as well. How does he have it already and I don't?
That sounds like a jealousy thing,
It
Steven.
is a jealousy thing. I get jealous. Um,
I hear you. I'm
but
jealous. I'm still waiting on to get my first two releases from Radiance, so I'm still waiting on those two. And
yeah,
their February stuff's already come out, and their March stuff will be here sooner than we think.
yeah, yep.
Plus the
I
box
think
sets are coming
I think
too.
some of the stuff I'm gonna either get from Orbit, or I might just try ordering some of the stuff from MVD.
Mm.
Some of the
Mm,
US titles from MVD, because not everything, of course, is going through MVD. Only their US titles, so are the ones that are going to be region free. So, um, but lastly, we have a decent little slate of Umbrella Entertainment stuff.
We do
Um,
indeed. It
and
is umbrella time.
Yeah, and so get your umbrellas. The
Get
rain's
your
coming
umbrellas
down.
out. It's
Get the
raining.
you know what's funny about that is they're in Australia, and I know it doesn't rain a lot there. Um, so why do they need an umbrella? Um,
Who knows? I feel like it's been a little while since we've talked about Umbrella. Um, I think the last thing we talked about when it came to them was their big Terrifier and Terrifier 2 release, that big package with all the
Yeah.
bells and whistles. Um, and now we're getting back to kind of their more. It's a smaller slate than we usually get from them, but I feel like we're back getting something. So Steven, what do we have from them? Because is it a
okay,
5 movie set or
uh,
6?
there's like some randoms here too as well, but they got as they do, they have some more kind of standard edition versions, but they also have these like really grand kind of packages with postcards
Collector's
and
editions, yeah.
collector's editions that that have like postcards and special packaging and things like that. But these are the highlights here. We have the masterpiece that Andrew told me is the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey collector's edition.
That is not what I said.
That's exactly what Andrew told me. He said it was a masterpiece. Um, Next, we have Get Weird, the Weird Al Yankovic story, the one that stars Daniel Radcliffe. I believe it was put out by the Roku channel. I actually seen this. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, we'll come back around to that. But also, we have The Bittersweet Life. I know Andrew said he saw that. We'll talk more about that. Um, I do see a couple like kind of I don't strays here. There's like a Combat Classics. It's called Mister Winkle Goes to War. Um, these look like DVDs though.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, Steven, where
Hmm.
are you?
It's I'm on the Umbrella Entertainment page.
Oh, oh, you're on their Facebook page.
I'm on their actual page. They're on their
Oh,
website.
on their website. Yeah,
Oh,
me
okay.
too.
Um,
Yeah, their website is a little chaotic when it comes to
it is a
searching
little
for things.
chaotic. I'll skip over them DVD ones, but there was
Yeah,
like there's also a film. There's also they got like a Stinkorama Vision
yeah.
version
I gotta
of
talk about. I'm gonna go on a
Yeah.
not a
yeah
rant, but just a thing.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1989. It's getting a
Yeah,
Stinko Vision version. Um, we also have a film I also watched called The Tunnel from 2011, which is like a found footage deal, and we'll come back around to that. Other than that, I'm not seeing anything really worth talking
no,
about.
I think that was it for their. And these are their April releases,
Okay.
if memory serves. I think that, yeah, that was their big thing that they showed those on their Facebook page and whatnot. So it is like a 5 collectors set type of deal where each of them comes with like extra swag. Um, the Weird Al Yankovic movie has like a Hawaiian shirt and art cards and stuff like that. Each of them come with like art cards or a book or something like that, something a little extra. Um, uh, and yeah, so I got to see all of these movies, and
Well, I
the
mean, if you
best.
haven't seen the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles yet, I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, come on, what are you doing with your life?
But have you
First of
smelled
all,
it? That's the real
yeah.
question.
I
Oh, I gotta. You know what? Let's just go into it then.
I
Let's just
might
go
need
into
to
what in
smell it. I
good
don't
God?
know.
What in good God's name is this?
I'd
I
say
like
shots
the.
fired, John Waters. I mean, come on, like
Yeah,
it's
that's the one.
not odorama, but it's something.
It's first of all, I mean, this is not a whole big story. So the 1990 Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie for me
89,
is an all
80.
time like
It's
favorite
it's 1980.
nostalgia.
It's 1989, Andrew. You're messing up
First
the
of all, that
date.
movie came out in
Very good
1990. I
year.
don't know where they got 89
It
from.
says 89 right here.
Yeah, it's wrong. That's wrong. I know, Steven. I was there.
I was
I've owned
born
this.
too. God,
I've owned
that
this movie on. I had the original VHS when it came out. I had the DVDs. I have the Blu-rays. Um, it it's a very nostalgic film for me.
it
I
does
love the
say
Turtles growing up.
1990 on IMDb,
Yes, it
Andrew.
does. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why I don't know where they got 89 from.
Well,
Um,
I'm gonna talk to him.
yeah, give him a call, give him a ring. Can you get him on the line? It'd be amazing if you
You
could.
know,
But
it's
I'll just say
possible.
I'm a big Turtles fan my whole life up till now, and this is baffling to me because I don't know who was asking for this. You know what I mean? Like, of all the movies to give like a scratch and sniff card type of treatment to, why are we doing it with the Turtles movie from 1990? Like we're just gonna smell what the sewer smells like or what
Yeah,
pizza
I
smells
guess a
like. And
pizza, and then
it,
is one of them what the inside of one of those masks smells like? Because that's just got to be putrid. That I
Ah,
don't want to know.
it's a fun gimmicky thing. John Waters did it for polyester, with the Odorama card, which if you buy the Criterion version of that movie, you get the Odorama card. There used to be an Odorama card that came with the DVD version of that movie. Notoriously, that idea has been reused many times. It was used for the Rugrats movie, I think, in the '90s.
No.
It was used for one of the Spy Kids movies in the 2000s. I remember John Waters has a whole thing on it where the patent for it or the copyright for it lapsed and nobody told him, so
Yeah.
he never got any like residuals for coming up with that idea based off of the old Castle, coming up with all those types of gimmicks on whatnot, William Castle, and it was an homage to him. But
One
the
of
one
my
thing that gets
prized
me,
possessions is an original Odorama card from the
oh
original
nice,
release that I got John to sign for me. I have it proudly displayed.
oh I'd get that framed, to be
Yeah,
honest, just
yeah.
in
It's
general. Um, it's baffling to me because this notoriously the Turtles movies haven't received the best treatment when it comes to Blu-ray and HD. They basically just put out Blu-rays for the 25th anniversary of the Turtle comic book coming out in 1984. So in 2009, they put the movies out on Blu-ray, and they've just subsequently put out the same exact Blu-ray over the last now 14 years. They've given no remaster to them, no nothing,
and it
and this is
doesn't
kind of
look
more of the
great
same.
either. I got it for
It's
my nephew over the pandemic because he's very into turtles, and so I watched all the turtle movies with him again and again, and they look about as good as the old DVDs. I would say for them. If this
Yeah,
had
the
been like a
Blu-rays
new
don't look
4K
that great.
transfer or something, then
They
maybe.
didn't
But
do anything
yeah,
at all, I think, for those releases at the time. I don't even remember who owned the rights to it. But since then, I think Nickelodeon has bought the rights
well,
to the
I
Turtles,
believe I
so
believe it's
that's
a new
Paramount.
I believe
So
it's a New Line Cinema.
it was
hmm
a new
the
line, but
original. Yeah,
when the
Yeah,
movie were made, they were an independent studio. Notoriously, the first Turtles movie is like their highest grossing movie of all time, and it's like the highest grossing independent movie of all time, because New Line hadn't been a subsidiary of Warner Brothers yet, and that's where they are now.
yeah.
But just the rights to the Turtles themselves have bounced around a bit. Ironically, is I think their 25th anniversary, the rights lapsed like right after that, and the company didn't renew it. And I think Nickelodeon owns that now, but Paramount is their one of their parent companies. So, anywho, that's why those new live action Turtles movies that came out, over the last few
There's going to be
years,
another one.
they're gonna reboot it again.
Seth Rogen's involved in it, I
there's
Yeah,
believe.
he's doing
so
an
many.
animated movie
Yeah,
actually. Um, so those are being put out by Paramount. I think those Blu-rays are put out by Paramount. But what's baffling about is this isn't even an anniversary release of like when that movie came out. It's just a random smell-o-vision release. I hate the cover
yeah.
with all the turtles making dumb Photoshop faces. It
Well,
doesn't represent the movie at all. I have
couple
no
things.
interest in this release, and
Couple
I love
things.
this movie. I
Yeah,
quote it every day of my life. People don't know that. I've walked out in public circles quoting this movie to the odd look of other people around me because they don't know what I'm talking about. And and yeah, that's how big of a fan I am of this movie.
no, me too. I've quoted this movie a lot of times. Stuff with Casey Jones and you
Oh
know and
yeah.
uh, and
I
uh,
I
and
I I mean, I used to watch these movies
"You
incessantly as
dirty
a child.
rat." When he's doing the
Oh,
impressions
when he's
of
doing
Humphrey. Yeah,
when he's doing that,
yeah.
um, the
But
Cagney?
yeah, the
Yeah, I didn't
Cagney.
even
That's what
know
I
that
meant. Yeah.
reference when I was like,
Yeah,
because the movie came out when I was like 3 years
it's
old, so I
probably
had
my
no
first
idea who James
Cagney
Cagney
reference when
was.
I saw that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know. I mean, I always loved that movie because that movie to me, and this is me going off, Steve, you're gonna have to stop me now.
I'm
Um,
about to stop you. Yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead.
it was always a mesh of the original comics and the Turtles cartoon that was super popular at the time. It was kind of a mesh of the 2, and I think that's the closest they've ever gotten to a mesh of the 2
Yeah.
in live action form.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it's
But
just a baffling release. It's not even coming with any new special features, I
well,
don't think, other than
this
smell-o-vision.
this yeah, the Stinkorama, which I was gonna say, it is their first one. So this is Umbrella. deciding to do some more gimmicky
A
stuff for the
series, yeah.
releases. Yeah. But the other thing I just recognized is I solved the problem with the date. It says year of production is 1989,
Mm,
so that's why it says 89. It's giving us the year of when it was in production
which is
instead of
odd.
the year it was
Yeah.
released, which is not
This,
typically
and
how things are
it's
dated.
notoriously one of Jim Henson's last things that he
Yeah.
worked on before he
Yeah,
passed. All the puppetry work was done through his company. There's been great documentaries made about the making of that movie and trying to get it off the ground. There's been documentaries about the comic book and documentaries about the phenomenon known as the Turtles, which actually still goes through to this day. Actually, there's still iterations of it, and it's still a money making machine for every generation. It's like all of those stuff we grew up with, just they just kept redoing it for younger kids. That and Power Rangers and um, everything really.
Yeah,
Scooby
every
Doo's been around
generation
since the
gets their
'60s.
turtles.
Every
yeah.
generation gets the same stuff that the previous generation got, just packaged in different forms, really. But when it comes to some of these other releases, I talk about something repackaged in different form. I won't get a better transition than that. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. If you ever wanted to see Winnie the Pooh done in a low budget, gruesome slasher film, this is for you then, because that is exactly what it is.
You're describing what I want to see.
And not
Um,
only is this a thing, the same director is going to be producing other classic Disney character slasher versions. It's going to be a whole slasher universe. He's doing Bambi, a version of this in Bambi and Peter Pan.
is The Rock gonna play Bambi?
What I
Please
want
tell
to
me.
know is
Please
is
tell me Dwayne
Bambi
Johnson's playing
is
Bambi.
Bambi going to get the revenge that we have all been craving for decades
Please.
against that hunter that killed her mom? Are we going to get it? That's all I want to know. But
Yeah, or you can wait for the big public domain box set. When all the films
Yeah.
come out, I'm sure Umbrella will. You can double dip. Yeah, it's just I'm impressed that you sat through this, and it sounds like you didn't enjoy it all that much. It just
it's
reeks
not
of yeah, it's just such a shameless move. It's like, okay, something becomes public domain, so your bad slasher movie is going to get that much more attention because it's going to, grab some headlines like, "Oh, someone made Winnie the Pooh into a horror movie." And it's like, "Well, a good horror movie?" No, but it's a horror
yeah.
movie. It's like, okay.
It's like they're just taking the idea and like, how can we push it to the furthest opposite extreme? Oh, make Winnie the Pooh a slasher movie, whereas as it's been a wholesome thing for forever now. And
That's
Disney
debatable. That's debatable, Andrew.
Disney's been putting off like letting their stuff go into public domain just for this reason, so that something like this would not
I
happen.
I
You
I
Well,
know,
don't I
yeah.
don't honestly, Winnie the Pooh is one of the most depressing cartoons you can ever
well,
like,
yeah, Eeyore's manic
he wants
depressive,
to kill
yeah.
himself every chance he gets. So I think that this was primed for some kind of horrific movie. Winnie himself is a damn addict. He's a damn drug addict.
Well,
Um,
he loves honey, but
well, he more than loves honey. He wants to have sex with it. He's
I
it's all he
man, if
thinks
you wanna
about.
interpret it that way,
Yeah, well, he's an addict, and so we
what is
needed
it
to people
yeah,
needed to see this, Andrew.
what's interesting about the movie is that it clocks in at 84 minutes, and it feels too long,
Yeah.
because it feels like something that's a
Andrew.
great gimmicky thing for, like, a short film that's maybe 25 to 30 minutes long, you
It's a
know?
one joke thing, right?
It's
It's
a
like, what
one-joke thing, and they
after
keep
10
playing it
minutes you're
over and
like,
over again.
okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I guess the most interesting aspect of it, and you sort of touched upon it, is that Winnie the Pooh, the character from the A.A. Milne, is in public domain, but so many of the recognizable Disney elements, which I imagine the specific color and maybe the red shirt, are not public domain because they're still Disney. And like, this is the interesting thing about that we're going to see trickle out over the next few years, where it's like Mickey Mouse is about to be public domain, but specifically the Steamboat Willie black and white Mickey Mouse, and he has to be like a certain shape and a certain a certain tone of the of color. Yeah, or he can't be in color is the point. Yeah. So it's like, I guess it's interesting to watch them walk this tightrope of okay, we're doing Winnie the Pooh, but we're not doing like, he probably can't say oh bother or whatever. He can't sound like Stanley Holloway. Uh but uh
Yeah. Yeah,
but
and they
he,
do and that's That's one of the I would say not even fallbacks of the movie. It's just it is if they can't lean into it enough, like you say. They can't use like the certain sayings, the certain verbiages that Winnie the Pooh would say. He can't sound like Winnie the Pooh because of the copyright thing. So you can't really lean into all of that to the point where it could become like a super fun thing. You kind of have to lean back and kind of only go halfway with it. You know what I mean? And what you end up getting is a generic slasher film just with Winnie the Pooh and Piglet, and that's it. And there's no real like other things, other hallmarks in it. It's just that, and you can be like, I feel like I'm just watching a slasher movie. And if you're not into slasher movies, or if you find slasher movies boring or repetitive, like I sometimes often do, you don't have any interest in it, and you just get to the point where you know where this is going, you know the inevitability of it, and it's not like the kills are entertaining or anything like that. They're just kind of generic. Um, so I found myself kind of being disinterested in the film overall. The concept though is fun to think about,
Yeah.
and the you know what I mean. But just the execution of it all, I didn't find too entertaining. Um, so this is
Well,
something I will not be buying for
Mhm.
$55 American.
it's kind of
Oof.
disappoints me
The
that
good
you're
news
so
is for
down.
all you Umbrella fans is that the box of Bert is still in stock. So forget about
Yes.
smelling your turtles and Winnie the Pooh killing people. Just get that box of Bert. You know you want it.
Yeah, and I can and
Yeah.
on the complete different end of the spectrum, A Bittersweet Life is fantastic.
Oh yeah.
A Bittersweet Life is a Korean film, that came out, I was yeah, in 2005, and this is, I thought, a really great film. So this film centers around a guy he's an enforcer for, like, organized crime. He runs, like, a nightclub/hotel, slash hotel, and he, is assigned to do a specific job by his boss, and the specific job is his boss has this young kind of girlfriend, mistress on the side or whatever, and the boss thinks that she is cheating on him, and his job is to basically follow her around to see if that's actually the thing that's going on, and if it is going on, he has to make her go away as well as the person that she's cheating on him with. And he's like a very stoic, almost like the samurai type of, stoic badass guy, where he's well versed in martial arts. He doesn't like, you know, screw around with people. He's very good at his job, and what his job is not very good. You know what I mean? And he ends up kind of I don't want to give it away. He ends up kind of screwing up a little bit, or kind of having a misgiving or a misstep, ends up setting him down a path of things happening that may not be so great for him. But the film is done impeccably well. Great action scenes, that are very well done, well choreographed, well shot, great acting, really compelling story. Yeah, I dug it. The movie clocks in at about 2 hours long, and you kind of don't really feel it. And that main premise that I just told you is such a small part of what the film actually is. There's a lot more going on in it, and it's a really great film. We see a lot of great films from Korean cinema, and this I think is really good. Um, we were talking about Letterboxd earlier. I gave it like 4 stars on Letterboxd. I thought it was really good, and it's getting quite a deluxe release here. And I've never heard of this movie until now.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
So
me
mean
neither, but it
yeah,
it's getting a
sounds
new 4K.
great.
Yeah, it's getting a new 4K restoration, which is always good. And
it looks like 3 audio commentaries too.
yeah, yeah, and I am familiar with the filmmaker Kim Ji Woon. He did Tale of Two Sisters, which got an Arrow release, and I Saw the Devil, of course.
Oh,
Oh
Uh,
that's right.
yes,
This is why I know this movie. Yeah.
maybe
yeah,
that's why
yeah,
the movie's so good. Now that I
yeah,
think
yeah.
about
He's
it.
he's he's he can be a very brutal filmmaker, but he's visually he's amazing storyteller, and yeah, I mean, you sold me. I mean, it's a it's a Korean neo noir, so it's something that's going to be and with the what seems to be a pretty solid release overall. I mean, um, with features and whatnot, I think I'm going to have to partake in this one. So
Definitely.
And I think, mm, yeah, I think have we all seen the Weird Al Yankovic story?
Hmm.
I have, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know I've seen it. Yeah, and that was for those of you. It is streaming on Roku for free. You don't even need a Roku account or anything like that. And it's the Daniel Radcliffe as Weird Al Yankovic. Um, an interesting satirical biopic that I don't think a lot of people were expecting it to be a parody of a biopic. But if you know Weird Al, his whole career has been about parody.
Yeah.
so so it probably didn't, it's not too far of a stretch of the imagination. I really enjoyed that movie. It came out last year. Um, yeah, and I think it's gotten a Blu-ray release here. Uh, and if it hasn't, it
I'm
probably
not sure if
should.
one has been announced yet, but I think it's expected. I kept waiting for some like boutique label stateside to snatch it up. I assume there will be copious
Yeah,
extras and
it's got
such.
nothing here so far, and which is a shame because it's you know it's a rather fun and entertaining film, and I would love to see like special features to go along with it. Yeah, this seems to be the only physical release of this movie right now.
Hmm.
Is this one?
Hmm.
There's nothing else anywhere else in any other region or any other country,
And yeah, that is the downfall. Is there is no real features on this disc other than an introduction by Weird Al. Um,
Yeah,
which is a shame.
yeah, that's what makes me wary because Weird Al does a lot of media based on his work. He puts out these box sets of like all of his albums on vinyl. He does these books that are of his lyrics and these sort of parodies of sort of autobiographies. So I just can't imagine that there's not yet going to be some big release for this film that is just full of deleted scenes and stuff like that. I liked it a lot. I do think that it kind of peaks halfway through. Like I think out of the gate it is hysterical, and then some of the Madonna Pablo Escobar stuff like lost me a bit, but it finishes strong. But I'm a big Weird Al fan from being a kid, and I have a lot of nostalgia attached to him. And maybe every album has a song or two that's not great. And if the movie isn't consistent start to finish, I think the highs are so high that it's well worth seeing and owning. But I might hold out for an edition that has more going for it.
yeah. All right. Well, the
Uh,
last
you
I
got to
did
see the
see.
yeah. I was just to say the last one is the tunnel.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
Uh,
Found footage film,
we both kind of were on the same
2011.
wavelength on this one. But go on, go on.
It's not good.
No.
To be honest, and we've talked found footage a couple times. I think on this podcast with Sarah Appleton, who did a whole documentary on found footage, and I really liked her documentary, and it did help open my eyes up to more found footage. But I see what I see, and when I watched the tunnel, I didn't see something I liked. I did kind of like the angle of how this type of found footage film was starting, where it was kind of more like one of them like after the fact documentaries. Like
Yeah,
it was like one of them.
it's part found footage, part faux documentary, which
Yeah,
is a
yeah,
unique kind of mishmash of subgenres. Unfortunately, I didn't find the material interesting. uh, the first
yeah,
45 minutes of this movie, I was so
the,
disinterested in it that when it started
yeah.
getting interesting, I almost didn't was too far gone. You know what I
But
mean?
but also, just even when you're getting into the thick of it, it's it's one of them things where just kind of how I feel about the Blair Witch Project. Uh, there's just so little that you experience visually because it's so shaky.
Oh,
It's trying to be
oh
so
yeah,
you know
shaky. I mean,
you don't
there
see
was no shot
anything.
composition.
There was no there's nothing to even get me in the atmosphere
Not
because
only
it's
that,
just
when
you know
you know, and we've seen that happen a lot with shaky cam. It's utilized to put the viewer in the position of the characters, make them feel like they're there, like they're feeling this, they're seeing it in a point of view perspective. But then it gets to the point where it's just the whole screen's just blurry. There's nothing there. And then when there's elongated moments of that, you don't find yourself in the moment. You find yourself even further removed. And that's what I found it to be like. It was trying to be a little bit like Wreck, a little bit like Quarantine. I mean, one movie was a remake of the other, but it tried to be that when it came to certain horrific reveals, and it was so blurry and so, unappealingly aesthetically, I couldn't see what the heck I was looking at. I
Yeah.
mean, it just bothered, and that kind of bothered me. And then we get to the ending of it all, and I felt nothing. Like, I didn't feel
Yeah.
like I was
Yeah.
scared. I didn't feel like I was captivated by what these characters were going to. I didn't really care what happened to them, you know? Um,
Yeah.
and so,
It's
yeah,
it.
it came out in 2011. It's an Australian film, part of that genre, but I didn't really. Both Steve and I were kind of on the same wavelength. I know he had saw it before I did, and I was like, "Oh, Steven not liking something. It's a little rare, a little rare."
What?
Not rare, but like that was one of the lower ratings I've ever seen you put on Letterboxd. Um,
You must not really be paying attention
no,
to
I
my
really don't.
ratings.
I really don't.
I don't like things a lot, honestly.
Yeah, but I've never seen a
I'm
rate.
pretty
I've seen you not
calculated
like
with,
things, but not give it a rating that low.
well, maybe I'm having a bad day. Maybe I'm
Maybe.
feeling a little mean that day. I don't know, maybe. But not as mean as Johnny. Johnny's super
Hmm.
mean all the time. No, I'm just kidding.
I
I'm
won
just
I
messing with
wonder
you.
what it was that, that upset you
I
so.
don't even know. I don't even know. I'm probably exaggerating.
Probably.
I
I don't
just feel
even
like
know.
I feel like I pop in on your reviews sometimes, and I'm like, oh, he saw that. Let me see what he did. And then like I'm like, man, his star ratings. And then I start reading your stuff, and I'm like, God, it's like I see all these other people like this, but then he doesn't like it. And it's like, is he just really just just hard on movies? I don't know what it is.
But
I don't.
was
I
it Nope? I know that Nope was the one that recently I saw that
That could have
I
been one
am
of them. That
I'm
definitely.
very on the outs with that one, and I saw it in
Yeah.
bad circumstances on a plane. So
Well,
not probably
that's not a
the
good place.
yeah, not what Jordan
Yeah.
Peele deserved, I would say. But yeah, that
No,
one
no, no, no,
it
no.
just didn't hit me. But I have gotten a lot of flack for that, so I
I have to
probably
go.
owe it
I have to
another
go back
watch.
and I'll go back and after in here soon, and I'll message you and tell you a couple of reviews where I was like, maybe like that. Maybe I'll give you a couple of ones that I was maybe point out that kind of surprised me, um, but yeah, but I think that's it. That's all we. That's it for for this week. My wife is calling me, telling me to hurry the hell up so she can go to bed. Which I tell her never to wait for me, but she does anyway. Um, but Johnny, we appreciate you joining us this week.
Thank you so
Thanks
much
for
for
hanging
having me.
around.
This was a
Yeah.
lot of fun. I've been looking forward to it, and you did not disappoint. And I hope I
Well,
didn't either.
we hope. Yeah, we hope that we didn't pull back the curtain and it wasn't too messy. Where now that illusion's there, now you're like you've seen us, you've talked to us personally, and now you're like, I don't think I need to listen to the
Hmm.
podcast anymore.
There's really no
I've got
glamour to it.
It's no glamour to it. I'm
You
wearing my
make it look
plain white
good.
T-shirt. Oh, thank you,
Hmm.
thank you.
Don't
Well,
spoil the illusion for the
I mean,
listeners.
I know.
yeah,
They think we're
yeah,
like in the big executive suite studios, but no,
yeah.
it's never that. It's never that glamorous.
No,
Which is kind of interesting how like podcasting and the internet world really is. I mean, we all see people do like short videos on TikTok like in the oddest of places. So it's just it doesn't nothing is really off limits anymore.
no. But Johnny, if anybody wants to talk to you, talk about filming with you, where's the best place?
Yeah, you can feel free to follow me on Letterboxd at Johnny Pomatto, Pomatto, and yeah, I mean, I'm on like other things, Twitter, Instagram, and stuff, but I don't use them so much. And I do occasionally co-host a podcast called Authorized about film novelizations. I'm sort of backing off from that a little lately. There's only so many Willow novelizations I can read, and we've done 3 of them at this point. In fact, I was supposed to do a Spider-Man 3 podcast tonight on the novelization of that, and I chose to spend the evening with you instead. So thank you.
Well,
But you could hear me
yeah.
unauthorized occasionally. But yeah, follow me on Letterboxd and anywhere else. Johnny Pomatto. That's me.
All right, fantastic. Andrew, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Cabzilla06 as well as our YouTube channel Chasing Labels.
And you can find me on Facebook, Stephen Billings. Also over in the group, you can find me and Andrew over there in our Facebook group. If you want to go and join that, we'll let you in. Talk with us, other chasing label or chasers as we call them.
Oh, I brought it back.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah, yeah. You can find me also at the other Chasing Labels social media, whether it's our Twitter, Instagram. You can follow me on Letterboxd at Stephen Billings. You can find the audio for the podcast on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening, and hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.